What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Rexora, and here we do all things card games, and I'm so excited today because we are doing a full set review of Into the Inklands, the new set coming out from Lorcana in just a couple of days. So it's very, very exciting. I'm a little congested right now, if you can't tell. So apologies if I don't sound like my normal self, but I just could not wait to do this. We're going to be taking a look at every single card from the set. Obviously not like paying special attention to the enchanteds, just talking about constructed and card evaluation. So I'm very excited to do that. But before we do that, if you are enjoying the content, you find it valuable, please, please, please like, comment, subscribe. It really helps me out. And also hit that bell so that you can be notified about more of my Lorcana content, because obviously they'll be doing a ton of that with the new set coming out. All right, so with a new set coming out and me doing kind of like a set review, I wanted to kind of take some of my Magic knowledge and kind of apply that here. Because I know in the last set, a couple of people, kind of misevaluated some cards. And again, I'm not saying I'm going to evaluate these perfectly, but I wanted to kind of add some kind of systems that we can kind of evaluate cards and give them a grade and kind of be able to compare cards to each other like we do in Magic. And with that, we have a special grading system. So I listen to the Limited Resources podcast quite a bit for Magic. I love their grading system. It fits really, really well. It gives me a lot of clarity in terms of how I should evaluate a card, and kind of how I compare it to other cards. Not just like, oh, A versus B, but also in the grand aspect of the game. So I kind of iterated upon that, or kind of transitioned that to be useful here. Similar A to F grading, if you're familiar with it. They have two extra kind of caveat grades for sideboard and build around. I kind of looped in sideboard cards into tech cards here, since we don't really have sideboards in constructed yet. I hope we do at some point. I don't know, maybe again, there's been some discussion on that. I'm not going to cover that in this video, but again, for now, tech cards kind of encompasses that kind of card. And then Limited Resources also has a grade for build arounds, right? Cards that you would build an entire deck around and put special cards in, and they have great synergy and all those kinds of things. That's more for draft, again, for limited purposes, opening packs and things like that, and building a deck out of that. Here in constructed, right, you kind of, every deck is a build around deck, right, where you're putting your cards together. So I'm not really making a whole extra grade for that, just kind of taking build around potential as a factor when evaluating cards. So we have just an A to F, A being the best, F being the worst. And I'm going to just explain, generally speaking, what it means when I'm giving these grades. And I have some examples here. So first of all, A, obviously, best card in the set, slam dunk. They're just easiest cards to enable. They are even better if you do something special with them. They really don't take much to get going. They're just kind of good by themselves. You play them, you put them in a deck, and they just do the thing. So this, obviously, some of the most powerful cards from the previous two sets will fit in here. Rapunzel and Beast Tragic Hero, right? Two of these cards that just, if you think of that color, you think of those cards. And those cards are often found as 3 to 4 copies in those decks. I believe pretty much every single Steel deck I've seen has been running 4 copies of the Beast Tragic Hero. There's a reason for that. Obviously, Rapunzel being a very powerful draw engine, commanding a very high price point because of its power level, right? But also there are some cards in here, right, that are also A's, like Maui and Tinkerbell. Yeah, the big tank, the steel one, I think it's just Giant Fairy, right? Pardon me if I don't get all these names. Again, I don't have the cards in front of me. I'm not going to look them up and put them on screen, but you guys know what I mean. But Maui, right, is also just kind of a slam dunk in most Ruby decks. You just kind of, again, put it in there. It'll do the thing. Again, most Ruby decks, again, besides a couple, are just slamming 4 copies of Maui in those decks and going from there. Again, they actively are cards that pull you into playing them. You see them and you go, wow, that card's so good. I want to play a deck with that card. I'm going to play that color, right? So this is, again, just Obviously it'll be pretty apparent as to what are A's, but maybe not so much in terms of what B's are. B's are really, really good cards. They might not be as blatantly powerful as the A's, but are still actively good. And do maybe they are a little bit more unique, maybe a little bit more specific, but if they're these are kind of like almost like the build around, maybe it's B for build around, and then they become A's. I don't know, but really, really powerful cards. Again, they still kind of incentivize you to play those colors, but maybe aren't as blatantly broken or powerful, whatever attribute you kind of want to use to describe these cards. So obviously, like Bell is strange but special. In the right situation and in the right deck, can just quest for 5 and can be really powerful. Fishbone Quill, similarly, a lot of Sapphire decks are just starting with 4 copies of that, pairing in with the Hiram Flavorsham and the Popsicle package, right? And just go, and again, that's a whole entire deck just by itself, just because of how powerful Fishbone Quill can be. Similarly, Prince John, right? There's a whole discard deck built around Prince John, providing a ton of card advantage. Again, sometimes these cards have situations where they're not great, right? Again, Fishbone Quill and Bell, right, have those situations where if you get them too early in the game or too late in the game, they're just kind of slow and underpowered. Prince John, again, is vulnerable to removal, all these things, right? So there could be situations, right, where a B might not be great. The other cards that you see there in the A section, right, there's basically no situation where those cards are bad. They're always going to be good. You're always going to be happy to see them. Similarly, speaking of cards you're not always happy to see, be prepared, right? Being uninkable, being 7 cost is pretty hard. And so decks with a bunch of copies of Be Prepared also have that liability, right, of getting kind of poor draws. So that's another reason why Be Prepared is in there. Again, it's a very powerful card, but it doesn't come without a downside. C's, which I assume we'll have a lot of, are just kind of good cards. They're totally fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But again, they're just kind of not that powerful. These will often end up being the nuts and bolts of decks. They'll just be in there. They'll do good things. But again, nobody's like freaking out over, cards like these, right? So for example, the Lilo and Maleficence, again, very powerful cards, not undermining the power level of a 1 cost that quests for 2. Similarly, Simba, right? The Bodyguard Simba, right? These cards are good. They kind of make up a deck, but they aren't, again, these incredibly powerful cards. Friends on the other side, perfectly serviceable card. Maleficent, right, falls into that category. Flynn Rider, right? Great card. The Rogue, I forget what it is. And then even, again, some of these, like, good commons that, just kind of are needed for certain decks or just great to have. Prince Eric, they've got, Cruella Deville, was it the Caravan, the car lady? I'm forgetting what stylish. I'm forgetting the car, the one of her in the car. You know what I mean? Uh, these cards are perfectly fine. They're great to have in a deck. Again, they're just not insanely powerful. They're not going to be making headlines. They're just good, and they're there. These are poor cards. They're often overcosted, slow, generic filler cards that are like cool to look at. Maybe they show a character that you like, but you can kind of tell that they aren't really there to be competitive play. Maybe they'll be, again, fillers for draft and just kind of serviceable cards. But again, really would not want to end up with these in a deck, again, unless they have a very, very, very specific purpose. Right, so Pumbaa is like it was like a 4/3 generic. Quest for 1. Elsa is a similar card. Triton, the Sea King in Sapphire, it's just the super expensive card. It's not good at all, and there's just not really a reason to put in a deck. Again, unless it has a very specific type, a subtype that you're looking for. Right? Again, I've put some cards in my deck because they're villains for my villain tribal deck. Maybe that applies, but again, generally speaking, you shouldn't be looking to put D tier cards in your deck. I put Captain Hook, the Captain of the Jolly Roger, in here, just because it's another one of those cards that looks good, but when you actually play it out, it's pretty poor. Being uninkable, right, and again, I don't want to go to a whole evaluation of the card, but right, also being specific to having to run multiple copies of Fire the Cannons. So, again, the cards like that are just like, okay, they're cool, they're like, fun to use maybe, but generally are pretty poor when it comes to actually playing them in decks. And then we've got F cards. These are just absolutely terrible cards. There's absolutely no reason to put these cards in your deck. Again, maybe they reference a card, or sorry, an item or a character or whatever from one of the stories. It's cool to see them, but they're just terrible cards, and they have either a very minor effect, they're just super weak, or they have an actively bad effect, or they're super specific. And I'll kind of go over some of the examples that I have here, right? So Dinglehopper and Healing Glow, these are just one-cost cards they're cheap, but their effects are so minor that they just don't warrant putting it as a slot in your deck. Reflection as well. If it drew a card, it would be great, kind of like Nothing to Hide, or again, a Popsicle. But the fact that it doesn't draw a card just makes it so weak. So yeah, those cards are just so minor. Moana, Chosen by the Ocean, is very similar in that, again, it's very specific to being played against someone playing Tekka. So you have to be playing against someone playing Tekka, they have to play the Tekka, and then you have to have the Moana. It's just like so unbelievably specific that there's really no scenario in which that card is going to work for you at a consistent competitive level. So I hope people understand why I would give a card a terrible, or sorry, an F grade, or as opposed to a D. Um, so yeah, and then I have a slot here for tech cards. Again, these are referred to specific things. So Poison Apple and Sword of Truth refer to princesses and villains respectively. Again, some people slotted these in for a little while because of various decks. They're highly specific, so again, you don't give them a good grade because you're not really happy to be running a lot of these in your deck. And again, there'll never be like a core card. But it's good that they're there, again, in case the meta evolves to a certain point where, again, these cards are needed. But yeah. All right, so that's it for the grading scale. I think we're going to start, and we'll go by color and start from the bottom. So we'll start from the commons, and we'll do the legendaries, the flashy legendaries at the end here. All right, let's get to it. All right, so we're going to start with the commons here. We're going to go through each color. Just kind of breeze through these because, again, some of these are obviously going to be pretty poor. But yeah, let's start with, and so sorry, some of these I have rough translation, so I'll have to kind of zoom in on some of these. So we got Billy Bones here, 651. So sorry, I'll also clarify that there have been people that have been doing, a lot of times in Magic we like to just say a 6/5 for the attack and willpower. People have also been adding the quest amount, or the lore count on the end. So right, 5 cost, right, 651, meaning 6 attack, 5 willpower, 1 quest value. So if anyone was wondering what I mean when I say that, yeah, 6/5, 651, fine, but it's pretty poor. Again, I know some people were trying to latch on to the fact that it's a pirate. I think this is pretty much a D. I don't really think I'm going to see it much outside of, again, a deck trying to do the pirate shenanigan. Similar one for Webby Vanderquack here. Cool art, like the ducks of this set. There's a lot of cool duck characters, but yeah, pretty much a D. Pretty filler card. Kakamora, Menacing Sailor here. 3 cost, uninkable, so again, that's another thing to take into the equation. 3/2/1, and it says whenever you play this character, each opponent loses 1 lore. So very, very similar to Aladdin. It is also a pirate, so maybe that factors into why it's uninkable. Maybe the pirate subtype pushes it over the top. But I'm trying to think of what grade I would give Aladdin, because I'm kind of giving this the same grade, but maybe a little bit worse. I think I would give this a C. I think it's more playable than, again, the other 2 cards that we looked at here. But again, I don't think it's that good. This looks kind of interesting. We've got Peter Pan Neverland Hero. 3 cost, 1/3/2. It's got Rush, and then when you have a character named Tinkerbell in play, this character gets 2 additional power. Or attack. Is it attack? Power? Whatever it is. um, I think I was more interested in it. If I were to know, because I don't think there are any 1 or 2 cost Tinkerbells, so I can look actually. I'll get back to you on that one. All right, so I'm back. I'm here to report that indeed there are no Tinkerbells that cost less than 3 in this game. So that is a little nick on the card. As again, it's not really possible to curve into it. It's not possible to play a Tinkerbell first, then the next turn play a Peter Pan, and have it have the bonus. So that kind of makes this kind of just a 3-cost 1/3 rush that quests for 2, which isn't that good. Again, there could be some decks where you're just naturally playing Tinkerbells and you kind of just want this. The questing for 2 is, again, nothing to scoff at. So I think I'm going to give it a C. I think there could be decks where you do see this played. Again, I think it's, again, better than the other cards that I've seen here. But again, still not too impressed with that Peter Pan. All right. Nutsy. I know there's a I think a larger Nutsy. I think there is. So it's good that there's a shift target for it. Again, I'll confirm that. But 2 cost 2/3 is perfectly fine. I think I'm gonna give it a C again, assuming this is under the assumption that there is a Nutsy shift target, shift card. At least I thought there was. If there's not, then this is just a D. But again, it's a fine card. Voyage. Move 2 of your characters to the same location for free. Obviously, if you haven't seen the locations from this set, or the new card type, surprise, there's a new card type called locations. I'm not going to explain how they work in this video. We're just going to assume, hey, you understand how locations work. But if we need to there are plenty of other people doing content explaining how locations work and if they will be good. We're not going to cover that. We're just going to talk about this card. And, this card's fine. My guess is this is going to end up being more of a D. I don't really think moving 2 characters is that good. And obviously, if you have 2 characters on the field, most likely you're going to be able to move them there or the next turn anyways. And putting a whole card in your deck just to use a location is pretty minor. This card requires quite a bit of you, right? It requires 2 characters, a location, and this card all at the same time. It's quite a steep price. So yeah, I think I'm going with a D for now. Again, unless there is a deck that is really, really, really heavy into the location theme, I don't think this card's really going to see that much play. All right, then we got Milo Thatch. 2 cost, 2/2, quest for 1. While this is at a location, gets +2 power. This also is a shift target, so again, could see a little bit of play. I'll give it a C. Again, I just imagine there might be some decks that have this at a location. 4/2 is pretty nice stat line. It's basically a Gaston, but it's not forced to attack. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I'll give it a C. It seems fine. All right, we got Jim Hawkins here. 2 costs, or 3/2/1. And yeah, that's it. I think I forget if there's a shift target for this, but these cards we know are fine. There's a ton of these cards. Again, the Jafar, the Cruella de Vil, right? These cards are often playable. They end up making it into decks, depending on if there's a shift target or if they just, need a 3/2. So I'll give it a C. It's perfectly fine card. It's got good stats. We got Della Duck, 2 cost uninkable, 3/3, and it's got Reckless. So again, kind of like Gaston, but with a bit more willpower, and that's pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna give this a C as well. Again, most of these at the common level, probably, spoiler alert, probably gonna end up being C's. This card will probably see a little bit of play for a little bit. Again, unclear whether the uninkable nature will make it into a D. That might be where it ends up being. but we'll see. All right, next we've got Agrabah Marketplace. This is our first location here, so there's some things to look at, obviously, with the location, right? Obviously, the cost, the inkable, the willpower, the quest value, and then the move cost. So all these things relevant to the card type. So, yep, 3 cost, 5 willpower, 2 quest value, and 1 to move things. No other effect, but I do think this is pretty good. The 2 quest value is pretty nice. The card can come down on 3 and just be valuable. You could also curve Simba into this, right? You can go Simba with the Bodyguard. Again, the Bodyguard does count towards your locations. And yeah, you can probably get a decent amount of lore out of this. And again, if there's any decks that want to use locations, this is a perfectly fine one to use. This is also their first location, and it's a C. Again, I'm not giving it a B because, again, there's nothing really about this card that's particularly powerful. It's lacking a little bit of effect, right? And again, part of that comes from we haven't really played with locations at all, but yeah. All right, we got Stitched Little Rocket, cute little guy. 2 cost, 3/1. Sorry, uninkable, 3/1/1, and it's got Rush. So kind of similar to the Queen of Hearts. So it's important to be able to kind of compare cards. This is 1 more power, but one less willpower. Or sorry, one more attack, 1 less willpower, and is uninkable. Which is leading me to think this card is more of a D. Yeah, I think it's pretty underwhelming. It's going to trade for 1 thing and pretty much die, which is not great. So yeah, as opposed to the Queen of Hearts on can often trade for a Lilo or a Maleficent. One of the small 1/1s that aggro decks often play early. So yeah, in terms of competitive play, I don't think this is quite making it. I'm going to give that a D. This art is pretty bad. There we go. We'll have a better view of the card there, but you can kind of read this one. We got Moana Undeterred Voyager, which is 4 cost, 3/4/1 with evasive. And it is relevant that it is a princess. They do have those relevant subtypes, so it's important to point those out. This card's pretty bad. Again, it's a little overcosted, understated, and just kind of lacking in power. So gotta give it a D. Again, the evasive is nice. You could use it to attack other evasives. It's probably better for that as opposed for using it to quest a bunch. But again, in terms of that, there's better cards to use, and this is pretty underwhelming in power level. All right, so that is all of the ones for Ruby. Let's move on to Steel. All right, moving on to Steel here, we've got Razul, Alice Guard. 2 cost, 1/3/1. It's a captain, which actually is a relevant type in this set and in general. While this has no damage, gets an additional to attack. Kind of ends up being very similar to Prince Eric, right? If you think about it, where you play it, it challenges something, and then kind of just doesn't really do much after that. Maybe gets challenged. Obviously, there could be ways to use this. Maybe Sapphire. Actually, you know what I'm realizing is Sapphire Steel could use this pretty well, right? You play Popsicle turn 1, turn 2 you play this, and you challenge something, you heal it up immediately. So that actually seems pretty good to me. Again, I think it's pretty comparable to Prince Eric. I'm going to go ahead and give it a C. I think this card will actually see a little bit of a play. It is certainly possible that in the right deck, this could be a pretty serviceable 2-drop. Next up, we got Mickey Mouse Stalwart Explorer. 3 cost, 3/3/1. It gets an additional power for each location you have in play. This is closer to a D. I guess we can also be giving like D, pluses and minuses. But generally speaking, this is going to end up somewhere as a D. It doesn't really do anything with the locations besides getting a little bit of extra power. 3/3 stat line is already pretty good. It didn't really need this. It needed, needed something else. So yeah, I just don't really see a real reason to put this in a deck. Being paid off for a bunch, getting, unless you have a bunch of locations in play, in which case you already have a bunch of locations in play. This doesn't really pay you off for doing the thing that well. Next up, we've got Chief Tui, Proud of Montanui. 4 cost 3/4/2. It is also a king and a mentor, which is noteworthy. Again, the king subtype is pretty relevant. There's a couple of cards that reference those. Vanilla, otherwise, again, I would usually put this at a D, but the questing for 2 is pretty nice. I'm going to give it a C minus. I think, again, there could be a deck that wants this. Again, if the king type is relevant. But generally speaking, again, it's somewhere between a C minus and a D. Again, it just is fairly generic. There are a lot of cards that do this thing. So yeah. You got Gizmo Suit. Very interesting item here. 3 costs. You can banish this item to give a character resist you until the start of your next turn. This is very hard to evaluate. There certainly could be some good reasons to give a character resist. I think I lean more. Again, I'm thinking of the cases again. You're playing against another steel deck. You think they're going to play a Tinkerbell or a Grabber Swords. That could certainly be good. But then in the matchups, right, against Ruby or Sapphire, that you banish the item, you give the card a resist, and then they just remove it with their type of removal that does nothing. Obviously, when it comes to combat, this card can be pretty good. It can often you can play this in advance in terms of like a rush character like Maui and give Maui rush and resist 2, and now all of a sudden it's going to survive with very little damage. But generally speaking, I think I'm leaning more towards this as a tech card against, again, decks playing Grab Your Sword or things like that. Because again, just simply using this as like, oh, I get resist 2 on my turn, isn't that good? Really have to be thinking about how you use the resist 2 on your opponent's turn. I don't know, maybe again, or in a very scrappy game, in a game where there's a bunch of challenging going on, maybe this can be good. I think this is closer to a tech card, and again, I think it can be good, but I really don't see how it's going to make a mainstay presence in a general constructed sense. All right, and then we got Robin Hood here. 1 cost 2/2/1, standard goon. I give most of the goons a D overall, but again, in the right decks, they can be a C. I guess we can give it a C minus because again, there is the shift targets for Robin Hood. So again, this will make it in decks. It's just that this card itself isn't the reason why it's powerful. It's the other card. Is kind of how that works, but it seems fine. Cool. We've got next up we got Baboom. Baboom indeed. 2 cost action. Deal 2 to a chosen character or location. Enough said. I'm gonna give this a C. It's perfectly fine. Again, I don't think it's as good as Smash. I think the 3 damage is really nice. Dealing damage to locations, direct damage to locations, we'll see how good that is. Certainly could be relevant, and if locations start seeing more and more play, this could end up being more like a C+. Just being a way to kind of deal the last couple points of damage on a location could be really nice. And again, the fact that it's inkable also is a really solid thing for this card. All right, next up we've got Nottingham, 2 cost, location, 6 willpower, 1 lore, and 1 to move. Again, really don't know how to evaluate these. I'm just going to give it a C. Again, this is a pretty fine location. It's got a decent amount of willpower. Yeah. Cool beans. All right, next up we've got Olympus Would Be That Way. 1 cost. action here. It says your character gets +3 this turn while challenging a location. So basically, challenge your 3 for locations. This looking more like an F. I I really don't see the use for this card. I guess it could be more like a D or D minus if locations are relevant. But again, your opponent has to be playing locations. You have to already have a creature, or sorry, a character, and again, an additional 3 power when you could have just used that ink to play a different character and challenge as well. Again, I really just don't see the appeal of these kinds of cards that have these minor one-time effects. All right, I'm very, very excited for this. We've got Cheetah Royal Warrior, 2 cost, 2/3/1, Bodyguard. This is just Simba in steel. This is a solid C+. Very, very easy to see that this card is going to do a bunch of stuff. So the Amber Steel decks just got basically an extra 4 copies of this card. I flipped out when I saw this because I really didn't think that they were going to do something like this. It's also a princess. That's another relevant thing that's pretty cool. But yeah, Amber Steel decks, loving this, or just Steel decks in general. Absolutely going to love this card. So yeah. Next up, we got Helga Sinclair, 3 cost, 2/4, Challenger 2, and Quest for 1. Sorry, missed that part. And it's also a villain, which is cool. I haven't really built a villain deck with any of the steel cards, but or seen anything like that. But yeah, it's challenges as a 4/4 for 3, which is again ahead of its time, or sorry, ahead of the curve, I should say. And I believe there's also a Helga shift target or shift card as well. So yeah, I think this is again a solid C. It's definitely going to see some play. It's a fine card. Cool. Got Eeyore, Overstuffed Donkey. Look at my dude, so sad. 5 cost 4/5, resist 1. Sorry, 5/4/5/1, and then resist 1. This looks like a D, even with the resist 1. It just is a little too slow and really doesn't do anything. And just being a 5 cost, I would imagine this card. I would have hoped this card could do a little bit more, but yeah, it's not bad. It's just barely missing the mark, in my opinion, of a playable card. But I like Eeyore, like seeing him here, but yeah, oh well. All right, then we got Minnie Mouse here, 1 cost, 0/3/1, and while this character is at a location, she gets 2 power. So 1 cost, 2/3 would be really, really good. But you have to have a location in play. You have to be at a location. So this card is missing quite a bit for me, where a lot of times I don't really think that this card is going to be enabled. Right, I guess on like turn 2, you play, it's there Nottingham. So I guess you could go like Mini into Nottingham, challenge something or quest. So, or sorry, it has to be at a location. You don't even have to, sorry, it's not even having it. You have to actually be at it. So it's even worse. Yeah, I guess like D plus. I think like even in decks that can make this work, it's gonna be pretty weird and awkward. So yeah, I'm not particularly impressed with this card. It's cool. Again, if you ever get it working, it's gonna do its thing, right? It's gonna be a cheap card, but I think a lot of times this is gonna end up being more like a 2 cost 2/3 effectively, which again is really nothing great. And then if it's ever just an 0/3, you're just like super sad. So not really impressed with that. Or again, just a lot of these cards that are required to be at a location to do things. So yeah. All right, I think that's it for the steel cards. We're gonna move on to Amber. All right, we've got our Amber cards here. First, we got Mr. Snoops, Inept Businessman. I don't know where this is from. This is hilarious. 6 cost 4/8/2, and that's it. You might think, oh, it's generic, gonna give it a bad grade, but I'm actually gonna give this a C. maybe even C plus. 4-8 is quite a big stat line and only 6 cost. It's basically just an upgraded Triton Sea King, or King of the Sea, or whatever it is. Right, it's just the same card with one additional power, but right. Maybe I'm not remembering the stats of the card, but very good in terms of stats. So yeah, I think this could absolutely make it into a deck at some point. Can't say the same for this card. Quick patch, 1 cost action, remove up to 3 damage from chosen location. This is getting an F from me. I don't see this card doing anything. You have to have a location in play. You have to have it not die when your opponent challenges it. I just think there's no way that this card is actually usable in a deck, and people are happy to slot this into anything. No, thank you. All right, next up we got Machia. Sorry, Patch. Oh, sorry, different language. I was like, what? That's not the name of that card. Patch, Little Menace, 4 cost, 3/4, 1, and it's got an ability to say exert. A chosen character you choose gets 2 less power until the start of your next turn. This is more like a D. Again, the pup subtype I think matters to like again the rest of the Dalmatian cards, but outside of that, I don't really see any reason to put this in a deck. It's pretty underwhelming in terms of power, and it's very slow. Again, fits all the requirements that you would think of for a D. Overcosted, slow, minor effect, yeah, all those things. So pretty easy D there. Boss's Orders, 1 cost, action, chosen character gains support this turn. We've seen a bunch of these cards, right? The Scepter, there's also like, I think this in blue or something, or in Sapphire or something. I don't remember. I think these cards are all, again, Fs. I don't really see a reason to put this in a deck. I'm sure, again, a deck could use this at some point, but as of right now, it's a pretty solid F. Orville, 2 cost, 1/1, and that's about it. Pretty minor. I don't think there is a excuse me, a shift target for this. I think this is just a D. It's just kind of a filler card. Fine. Got Joshua Sweet, 4 cost, 1/5/2, and it's got Bodyguard. This card has quite a big willpower, and the quest for 2 is also again nothing to scoff at. Trying to think of what decks it would curve nicely with. Again, I can't think of any right now. It'd also kind of work well if you could ever give this resist. This might be, again, maybe a card to work with the Gizmo suit. Give this resist, and your opponent is going to have a hard time dealing with it, maybe. Cool. Yeah. I'll give it a C, probably more of a C minus. Again, I think the 1 power is what's really getting me here. It really doesn't hit back as hard as some of the other bodyguards, but you know the large willpower might be okay. Next we got Miss Bianca, 2 cost, 2/1, Singer 2. Sorry, Singer 4, excuse me. This card we kind of have before. We've got what is it? It's Sebastian, and card doesn't see any play. You know, usually I would give this card a D, but I think we can safely give this card an F. Because again, Sebastian sees 0 play. So yeah, I think that's pretty safe. But we'll see. Next we got Cleansing Rainwater, 2 cost item. Banish it to remove 2 damage from each of your characters. That's pretty good. Banishing from each of your characters, right? As opposed to Dinglehopper or you know, any of the flowers or anything like that just banish from one character. It's banished from multiple characters. But again, still, I'm not really impressed with these kinds of cards. But I do think that it could see some usage. So I'm going to give it a D. Again, it's not the easiest card to use, but I think there could be a scenario where this card sees some play and is pretty nice. Healing your entire team. It's nothing to scoff at. All right. Next, we got Kida Atlantean, 1 cost, 2/1. So again, standard goon. It's a princess as well. I love the kind of the hieroglyphic text there. Again, not familiar very much with all the Disney franchises, right? This is Treasure Planet, right? Or not Treasure Planet, or it's Atlantis, whatever it is. Man, I'm gonna get roasted for not knowing all these. But there's also a shift target, or sorry, this is a shift target for the larger Akita, and that card's pretty good, which we'll talk about. So I'll give it again a C minus. It's still gonna be a good card. We'll see some play. All right, we got a one cost location here. One cost Neverland. Sorry, one cost, 4 willpower, 1 quest, and 1 to move. Again, if there's a deck that's trying to use the locations, having a 1 cost location seems pretty good. We'll see how easy it is to kill a 4 willpower location. But I'm going to give this again a C minus because, again, I think if there is a deck that wants to use locations, this is going to be one of them. I guess I should clarify an Amber deck that wants to use locations. All right, now I got an easy one here because we've got 5 different cards all in one. We've got Dalmatian Pup, Tailwagger, and these are all the same card, just different arts. Hence all the different Dalmatians. So 2 costs, 2, 3, 1. Again, the pup subtype, and it has a special clause of you can have 99 copies of Dalmatian Pup Tailwagger in your deck. So there's going to be people coming into the stores with piles and piles and piles of them. They can do that. I think this card is pretty much a D. I know there's some people trying to fiddle around with this. I would recommend not wasting your time, but that's just me. It's a cool gimmick. It's very flavorful. It's cute. Not really there for competitive play. But again, hope I don't get roasted by people being like, how could you say that? They're so good. They're so cute. Anyways. And then our last one here for the commons of Amber is Heal What Has Been Hurt. 3 cost song action. Remove up to 3 damage from a chosen character. Draw a card. Again, it's really hard for me to warrant a card like this when for just 1 more you can play Rapunzel gifted with healing. The song aspect is nice, drawing a card is nice, so it's really hard for me to give it a low grade, but man, do I really not like these cards that all they do is heal. That being a song, I guess you can just heal up you can use the character that's damaged to heal itself up, and your opponent is kind of forced to challenge it again. I'm gonna give it a C minus, but I think this is way close. I really just want to give this a D and move on, but I'm gonna say C because it's a song and it draws a card. We know how effective those can be, so it can be found with Ariel, I guess, as well. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a C minus. And I think some decks will try to use it. I'm just not the biggest fan of those cards. All right, on to the Amethyst cards. I think there's a couple of pretty interesting Amethyst cards here. So we've got the Queen Hateful Rival, 3 cost 4, 3, 1. Villain Queen Sorcerer, lots of types there. But otherwise, very generic. I think I'm going to give this, again, just a D. I guess C is it's fine. It's a filler card. It has decent stats. It's fine, but more closer to a D just because it really doesn't do anything. Next up, we've got Magic Carpet, Flying Rug, 2 cost 2, 1, 1. Evasive, which is cool, and then it has Find the Way, exert to move a character of yours to a location for free. This is a card that I'm more interested in terms of locations. If there's any locations that do things, right, that they give your characters benefit for being at this or for moving a character there. There's a couple of cards, right, that give you benefit when they move to a location. So this is really good to just stick around. You play it, you play your location, you play your other character, bam, you just move it there. And so this character having evasive is really what makes the card. If it didn't have evasive, this card would basically be an F for me. But it having evasive means it's pretty likely that it just sticks around. Otherwise, your opponent's going to have to use a card to get rid of it, in which case you're fine with that trade. So yeah, again, I think if there's an Amethyst deck that's using locations, and wants to move characters to a location, this is a totally fine card. It's a solid C for me, I think. All right, next we got Magic Broom, the Big Sweeper. 3 cost, 1/5, 1. Clean sweep. While this is at a location, gets +2 power. This is pretty much a D for me. Maybe D plus because again, I do love the Mickey Mouse Sorcerer. This card is another additional broom for that deck, but again, I don't think this is a great one. So yeah, I think I'm on a D for Magic Broom Sweeper here. Next up, we got Magica Dispel. 2 cost, 2/3, 1. Another villain sorcerer. Again, these these all have the same. I think I gave these a D. I give these a C or a D. I'm kind of giving it a C minus, D plus, somewhere in that range. Again, two cost 2/3s are always good. They'll see some play, and this is even, I believe, a shift target for the big Magica. So definitely gonna see some play there. Next up, we got Lena Sabruing. I don't know how to say that. 2 cost, 1/3, 1. Rush. The rush here is pretty underwhelming, given that it is only 1 power. Very confused by this card. It's a simple card, but I'm very confused by it. Giving it a D, actually. Usually I feel like I would be more impressed with this card. This is pretty much a D. I don't really see why this card is here and what it would do. Again, besides killing a 1 power thing or pecking in for some extra. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know why that card's there. All right, next up we got Pua. Oh, he's so cute. 2 cost, 2/2 for 2. Or sorry, 2/2/2. So quest for 2. Lots of 2s. 2/2/2, 2/2. When this character is banished, shuffle this card into your deck. Wow. Huh. So obviously you can't rebuy it with anything, right? If or anything like that. Oh, it says you may shuffle this card into your deck. Wait, even you can just put it in the yard too and grab it back with whatever you want if there's something that you're planning on getting it back with. But yeah, I really like this. This is basically Aurora, right? Aurora is the same card, and Aurora sees a little bit of play, so it's a solid C level card. Perfectly fine. Oh, this is in a different language. Got Magic Broom, Quick Cleaner, 5 cost, uninkable, 4/4/2. Okay, that's pretty good stats actually. And says when you play this character, you may shovel all broom characters from your discard into your deck. Okay, I kind of like that. 5 cost, 4/4 rush, quest for 2 is not bad either. Yeah, I actually think I'm giving this a C plus. I think it'll be a fine card in the broom deck. I believe there's also ways to play the brooms for cheaper. There's like a location that does it, right, or something like that, or characters that do that. So that's something to consider as well. But also just in general, just yeah, 5 cost, 4/4 rush, and questing for 2. If this kills something and lives the turn, like it's gonna be pretty good. I think this will often end up being a 2-for-1. So yeah, I'm actually giving that a C plus. I did not think I would give this card a C plus, but yeah, I'm fairly impressed. I'm not, however, impressed with this Firebird, Force of Destruction, 4 cost, 6/1. No other stats. It's a villain, but otherwise I don't care. Yeah, the 2 willpower is just so weak. It dies to anything. It dies to fire the cannons. It dies to grab your swords. So this is almost an F for me. I really think it's a bad decision to put this card in your deck. Obviously, if it lives, it can fight things down, but yeah, again, I really don't see a reason to put this card in your deck, and it's just so bad if your opponent just plays any of those meta-relevant cards. All right, next up we've got Bestow a Gift, 1 cost action. Look at that art. That is some beautiful art. Unfortunately, the effect it's not that good. Move a damage counter from one of your characters to another chosen character. Sorry, to another opposing character. This does work with, there is the Maleficent, the rare or legendary or super rare. It's a super rare, I believe. right? That draws off of moving damage. But again, even with that, I think this card is pretty much an F. I really don't see this card doing much. Again, you have to have damage on your character as well. I just don't like this card. Again, it's basically a heal that also does a little bit of damage, right? It's pretty bad. All right, next up we've got, ooh, sorry, different language. We got Diablo, uh, 1 cost, 2/1/1. So actually pretty good stats for a 1-drop. And it's got the ability to, whenever you play a character named Maleficent, you get to look at the top card of your deck and either put it on top or on the bottom. That's pretty cool. It's pretty good for just any Amethyst deck. That there's a ton of Maleficents in Amethyst. Most of them are pretty good, right? We've got the standard 3-cost Maleficent. We've got the one from this set as well that does the drawing and the questing and everything. Yeah, I think this is a easy C. Again, it's probably going to see some play in those decks, or at least be tried out. It's a little weak, right? But I think it's pretty fine to just like be out there. Maybe you quest with it. If your opponent doesn't kill it, right, then you get a little bit of value from, again, your 3-cost Maleficent. So cool. Got Iago Pretty Poly here. 3-cost, 3/2 evasive. Sorry, 3/2/1 and evasive. I gotta get used to saying the quest value after the stats. This is fine. It's a C minus, maybe a D plus even. It's pretty weak, and really doesn't do anything outside of, quest or challenge an evasive or two and die. So yeah, pretty underwhelming. I don't think this card's very good. Probably more in the D range. Yeah. All right, and then we've got Forbidden Mountain, another location here. 2 cost, 6 willpower, 1 lore count, and 1 to move. It's very similar to whatever the other location that we saw in Steel was. C minus. Again, it'll be, if there's a location deck, this card will be good. And it'll do just fine. Yeah. All right, moving on to our Emerald Commons. Got I Will Find My Way. Lovely song. 1 cost, action song. Chosen characters gets +2 power this turn. They may move to a location for free. This card I'm more impressed with. It's kind of a combination of he's got a sword and the voyage, right? And being a song, meaning it can be played for free if you've got something good. So you can go like your 1-drop, play a 2-cost location, and then sing write this out. Or again, if your location lives, you play your 3-cost character, use your goon or whatever, right, to sing this out. So I can see some ways that this card can see some usage. So again, even though I really don't like these kinds of cards, again, that have these cheap cards, but they have very low impact on the game, I'm gonna give it I guess a C minus. I think this card could actually be used, but again, it's just its effect is very minor, which is just why I'm very cautious of that. All right, next, Strike a Good Match. 2-cost, action song, draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Cool. It's a little bit of card advantage in Emerald. Emerald not really getting a lot of ways to see extra cards from their deck, or draw from their deck. And this is a fine way to do that. It's kind of like the friends on the other side of Emerald. So yeah, this is a C. I think if there's a deck, if you want to draw cards in Emerald, this is a fine way to do it. Next up, Skippy, Energetic Rabbit, cute little guy. 2-cost, 2/2 ward. So basically an Aladdin from Emerald. The other Aladdin doesn't see play. This doesn't see play. Unfortunately, I think it's like a D minus. It's not an F, right? It's cheap, but it's just not that good. Next up, we got Surhiss, Aggravated Asp. It's the from the Jungle Book, right? The snake. I'm still just laughing at it. 2 costs, 3/1/1, evasive. So can hit opposing evasives pretty well, but the one willpower is really doing me in here. It's probably closer to a D. This card's probably not that good unless it is being used to challenge opposing evasive characters. So, could be used, but probably not. Got Chubby, or Cubby? Cubby, Mighty Lost Boy. 4 cost, 3/5. When this character moves to a location, gets 3 additional power that turn. Seems pretty bad. Yeah, I'm leaning more towards a D. That text might as well not be there. But even if it is, it'll end up needing to be used. Right, you have to have a location, you have to move to it, and you have to want to use that power gain on the turn that you get it. So, yeah, more of a D. But again, location deck. We don't know about, so it's possible that could be used as again, if you ever use this as a 4 cost 6/5, right? If that's what it is, that could be pretty good, but I don't really see it going that way. All right, next up we got Zazu, Manager of the Pride Lands, 1 cost 2/1, 1, I guess I should say. And when this character is at a location, gets +1 lore. This is a card that I'm impressed with when it comes to location decks, right? If this card can be played on turn 1, make it all the way so that you can play a location, move it there, and then start questing for 2 with your 1-drop, that's going to be pretty good. So yeah, I can give this a C. Again, if there's a location deck, I think this is going to see play in it. Again, I avoid giving it a C+, just because, again, we haven't seen the C+. We haven't seen the location deck yet, right? We haven't seen a deck that's actually using it. Might be more of a C+. All right, next up we've got Airfoil, 2 cost item. Says exert, if you play 2 more actions this turn, draw a card. This I think is an F. It's pretty much an F for me. I really don't see a situation in which you're gonna play this. Play 2 actions the next turn, or in the next couple of turns, and be happy about it. I guess they're not. Sorry, I'm not. I guess I'm thinking of songs, but I guess you could have some cheap ones like "Find My Way." But again, even then, you have to spend 2 on this first. Yeah, I just don't see this card working. I just don't see how this card works. Yeah, I'm giving it an F, but again, I'm open to hearing some thoughts on that card. But my inclination is that's a pretty solid F. All right, next you've got Dawn Carnage, 5 cost 4/4, 2, Villain Prince Pirate, evasive. That's a lot of text. First of all, 5 cost 4/4, 2 is great stats, and having evasive just makes it better. And then it's a villain, and it's a pirate, and it's a prince. All 3 of those things are relevant subtypes. So yeah, this looks like a C+ to me. This seems really good. I'm like really impressed by this card. I hope I see it somewhere. It's a little slow, obviously, but a lot of decks might really like this good evasive card. Right, it attacks well. It gets attacked well. Just seems good. Next, we've got Milo Thatch as a goon. Right, this is the main shift target for the Milo Thatch in Emerald. So again, just the same grade for all those, right? C-, C+, or sorry, D+. Again, it'll see play. It's just it's not this card. Its power is not the reason why it sees play. Again, not trying to repeat myself over and over here, but do just want to mention, again, I don't think a one cost 2/2 1 is amazing. Just cause, yeah. But anyways, we've got the DeVille Manor, 1 cost location for 4 willpower, 1 lore count, and 1 to move. Again, same grade I'm giving all these common locations. C, maybe C- even. Actually, no, sorry. I gave all these Cs again just because, it seems fine. I guess this location is a little bit better because these 1 cost locations are good because if you play them on turn 1, it's pretty hard for your opponent to remove it. And so, you get, 1 lore, on turn 1. On turn 2, they probably can't remove it either, so maybe you get 2 out of this. So if you get 2 lore out of this, I feel like you're pretty happy. So you know what? Yeah, I think I'm gonna give it still keeping the grade a C, but again a more emphatic C. Like, yes, I think this card is good. I think it'll see some play. All right, next we've got the pair of Flotsam and Jetsam here. So let's take a look at Jetsam. 3 cost 2/2/2. Okay, it's got a ward, and it gives your character's name Flotsam ward. Okay, cool. 3 cost 2/2/2. Is nothing to scoff at, and having ward is nice. If you ever just like pair this with a bodyguard, it's pretty hard to get rid of. Yeah, I think it's actually a C. I think the other Flotsam and Jetsam in Amethyst wasn't that good. This seems pretty playable to me. I don't know. Let's see what the other one does. 3 cost, Flotsam, 3 cost, 5/1/1. Your character's name Jetsam get 3 additional power. This one does not seem very good. I guess 3 cost 5/1 is quite powerful. Can start swinging, but making this Jetsam into into a 5/2 that you're not really gonna want to hit with also doesn't seem great. Yeah, this one confuses me, but I guess it works. Maybe is designed to work with the Amethyst one. Maybe I don't know. I don't remember. I'm having trouble remembering what the other ones are. But this Jetsam card just by itself just seems fine, right? Quest for 2. That's never bad. All right, those are some interesting Emerald cards. That's kind of cool. All right, and we've got our last batch of common cards here in Sapphire. So let's finish this off. Start strong with Pluto, Mickey's clever friend. 3 cost 3/4/1. Fine vanilla stats. I think there is a Pluto in Amber that's really good. I don't think there are any others, but cool. It's probably fine. It's just like a C minus mostly. You know, it's got decent stats, but again, it's got really nothing else that's like setting it apart from anything else. I know this also is looking at this card earlier today. Kit Cloud Kicker, 1 cost 0/1/1, but it's got ward, and the shift target we'll look at later. Is like a 2/5 that quests for 3, and it's got shift for 3. So if you go this into the shift target, and it's pretty protected because of word. That's pretty strong, right? You just play this, you don't quest with it immediately, and then you shift out the other one on turn 3. That should be pretty good, but the cards individually are pretty bad, but we'll see. I think this is a C minus. I think, again, considering that I'm considering it in the context of the other shift card, the Floodborn card. So I think, again, if that card ends up being used, this card is obviously going to be the card that's used with it. Yeah, I don't think this card by itself is impressing me in particular. All right, Captain Amelia, 3 cost 1/5/1. During your turn, this character gains evasive. I'm very confused by these cards that seem like they want you to challenge your opponent's characters during your turn, but they start off with very low power. And yeah, I think this is a D. I don't really understand why this card is the way it is. Again, the willpower is nice, but besides that, I don't really see why you would use this card. All right, next up we've got, right, not skimming, yeah. Next up we've got McDuck Manor. Just love McDuck. 4 cost location, but it's got a whopping 9 willpower and has 2 lore counters on it, and still has that classic 1 move. I don't think we've seen a location without a 1 cost move yet. I know there is, but yeah, this seems pretty good. This is a solid C, right, in terms of locations. It's got a lot of health. It's going to stick around, and you'll probably get a decent amount of lore off this, assuming you are in a decent position and your opponent's board isn't swamped with characters. So yeah, solid C. Again, I think in terms of locations is playable, and we'll see if, again, how meta relevant locations end up being. Next up, sorry, I've got to get a translation here. We've got Grandma Tamala, or sorry, Grandma Tala. 4 cost, 3/3/1, and sorry, just trying to parse all the information in Mentor. I don't think that subtype matters. When you play this character, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one into your hand, the rest of the bottom. Of course, you've got the, what is the card? Develop Your Brain, right? On a stick. Usually those cards end up being pretty good, but I don't think this card is really doing that much. I think there is a Grammatala shift target as well, so maybe that's good there. But I'm gonna give it a C minus because again, it replaces itself, but it draws you a card. If it didn't do that, it would be really bad. Yeah. All right, next up we've got Repair, 2 cost, action, move 3 damage. Up to 3 damage from one of your locations or characters. So this is basically just that like Amber card, but it can also heal your characters. I still think these effects are super minor. I kind of want to give this a D. It also doesn't draw a card. Did the other one draw a card? I don't think the other one. No, I think I'm just giving this an F. I don't really like these types of cards at all. And if you want to give it a D, if you want to treat it as a D, sure, but I really don't like these cards at all. All right. Next up, we've got Maid Marian. 5 cost, 4/4/2. All right, cool. We've already seen those are pretty decent stats. When you play this, chosen character gets -2 power this turn. And it's a princess. I think this is more like a D+. The effect on play is fairly minor, but it does quest for 2. Yeah, it could be like a C minus, D+, somewhere in there. It's a fine card. It's just it's a little underwhelming in terms of its impact on the game. But it is just a 4/4. 4/4/2 is really nice to look at. You just think of all the things you can do with questing. All right, this is a very interesting card. We've got King Louis, 7 cost, 7/7/3. It's a king as well, actually. I didn't think about that. And he's jamming out. Yeah, if there's a deck that can get this out early, if there's just a deck that's like ramping and you play this out, it's gonna do work. It doesn't have any protection, but it still seems good. Just this vanilla stat line, but I'm just looking at the 3 quests. I think this card's gonna be a C for me. I think this could be used, even though it's a vanilla. Yeah. Oh, it's another. Let's see. We've got Rufus. Oh, cute. What's that from? Please tell me where some of these cards are from. I feel like they're so specific. 5 cost, 4/5. And when this is banished, you can add him to your Inkwell face down and exert it. Okay, I mean that's a fine effect. It kind of replaces itself when it dies. But 5 cost, it's not that good. Again, it's another one of these like fairly slow. Impact on the game is fairly minor. And giving you a little bit of ramp is nice, but how it has keyword ramp. By the way, props to whoever made this website. I'm not dissing on the website. It's perfectly nice to just like having a place to look at cards. I think this is a D. It could be a D+ if it ends up seeing a little bit of play, but not really that impressed. Next up, we got Vault Door, 4 cost item. Your locations and characters have resist 1. Again, giving it to everything is really, really nice. Comparing it to like, again, the Gizmo suit and it just sticking around too. I do think that is pretty good. And it being an item, right? There's some item synergies in the set. I think I'm going to give it a D+. I think right now I'm not seeing it, but there could be an item deck that uses this just as like a, hey, it's an item. We want lots of items in our deck, and it's got a little bit of an added bonus. All right, we got Louis, Chill Nephew, 4 cost, 3/4/2. It's got support, and that's it. I believe there is a synergy with this Louis and the other ones. But just looking at this card individually, it's pretty underwhelming. It's a D+. It quests for 2, which is nice, but again, the support mechanic not really doing much. But yeah, it's fine for a common, but not really blowing me away. All right, so that is it for our commons. again, mostly C's, nothing really hitting above a C, and that does make sense, right? There's no card that's really standing out to me in these commons, but we'll see what happens when we look at these uncommons. All right, so we've got 9 cards for each color just for the uncommons. Kind of realizing how few uncommons, rares, and super rares and everything there are. Right, like there's only two rares per color, which is kind of interesting. Anyways, we got Hey Hey up here, 2 cost 3/2/1, so already decent stat line. And then when it moves to a location, each opponent loses 1 lore. Okay, so again, kind of like the Aladdin and the other card that we saw. I'm blanking on the name. But you can potentially get multiple lore loss triggers from this. I don't know how to say it. You can get multiple effects from this card. So that's pretty interesting. Again, obviously you have to have a location and you have to have 2 locations in order to be able to move it back and forth. I guess you could also wait for one to die and then you get you play another one, you move it there. So yeah, I actually think this card's a C. Again, the stats are fine by itself, and if you'd ever get more than 1 trigger off of this, it's pretty awesome. All right, next up, ooh, this dude. We've got Trigger, 2 cost 3/1/1, and it says your Nutsy characters gain 1 lore. Okay, so this is working with the Nutsy card, which is at the common level, which is the 2 cost 2/3, right? So you kind of play all these guys together. But yeah, could be okay. I guess I also have to see if there's other Nutsy cards. Right? I don't think I saw any yet. Maybe there'll be some when we see. Again, I don't know again, apologies, I haven't memorized all the cards in the set. But yeah, it seems fine. Again, if it's you're in a deck where we've got your Nutsies, but I don't know. Maybe it's more like a D, because again, 3/1 stat line isn't that good. Yeah, it's probably going to end up being more like a D. Next up, we got Slightly. 4 cost 4/3. If you have a character named Peter Pan in play, it costs 1 less, and it's got evasive. Okay. I mean, we saw the 3 cost one, and we know that there's some other ones, right? We know there's the one from chapter 1, right? That's got evasive or rush, one of those. So you can play that into this, but I don't think there's any Peter Pans that are actually going to let you play this on turn 3, right? So that's a little awkward, but also having evasive is nothing to scoff at. I think it's going to be a D+. It might be able to be used with the Peter Pans. I think if you can play this, if you can go curve a Peter Pan into this, it's going to be pretty good, but otherwise, I don't think I'm really impressed with this card. Next up, we got Maui here. Soaring Demigod. We got the bird dude. 3 cost 5/2, and it's got Reckless. So that's pretty wild. So it packs quite a punch. But it says whenever a character of yours named Hey Hey quests, this character gets +1 lore. Okay, and loses Reckless. Okay, so I think I misread this card when I first looked at it. I thought it just got that once. It gets that multiple. So if you ever have multiple Hey Heys and you quest with this, you can get more. Again, that's heavy build around and you have to play Hey Heys, but I think I'm gonna put this at a C actually. I think I kind of want to see Hey Hey make his competitive debut and work in tandem with this Maui. And then even just, it being a 5/2 can hit things pretty hard. Right? So that's nothing to scoff at either. Yeah. Cool. I guess you can also save it from having a bad challenge, right? If there's something that this wouldn't be able to kill, you can have a Hey Hey quest with it and then quest with this, and you don't have to challenge whatever would be getting in the way. I don't know. It might be too cute, but I think that's kind of cool. I think it's cool design, right? I think that's always nice. Next up, we got Dive Bomb. Banish one of your characters with Reckless to banish a chosen character with less power than that character. So, I'm picturing this being used with a Maui, right? You slam with a Maui, and then you use it the next turn to kill one of your opponent's big things after they play it, right? The one that you can't challenge because it's not exerted yet. So there's definitely usage for this card. The fact that it's not a song heavily restricts its playability because it's pretty expensive to use, and it's not a card neutral thing. You're trading 2 of your cards for 1 of theirs. But again, this is in the scenario with a Maui that probably challenged something and killed it. I think it's a C minus. I think this card is pretty interesting, but I think it might be a little too cost and resource intensive for it to actually be that successful. Next up, we got another 1-cost location. Now, these are really important to look at. So you got the Jolly Roger Hook's ship, 1 cost, 5 willpower. Oh, but it's got no lore count, so maybe this isn't that good. Because it costs 2 to move something here as well. It says characters gain rush while here. Okay. And then pirates may move here for free. Okay, so here's where, again, the first comment that we looked at, the 6/5, for 5 or whatever, that's a pirate, right? That's pretty interesting. Hey, this is not a pirate, unfortunately. Man, if this was a pirate, that'd be cool. That'd be funny. I don't know why Hey would be a pirate, but yeah, this seems pretty good. So this is like a really, really cool synergy for the pirates. Finally, the pirates subtypes are starting to matter, right? So there could be a deck that is just full of pirates, is using this to rush stuff out. And also have a bunch of characters at locations, right? There's the Peter Pan cards that might be pirates. You've got Captain Hook cards that are pirates. So this is pretty interesting. I'm going to give this I was going to say C+, but it might be a B. Maybe it's a B minus. I kind of want to give something a B. I'll give it a B minus because, again, I do think that people are going to mess around with that, and I do think it's going to be pretty good. Holy moly, that's terrifying. Oh, did somebody do that as a joke? Oh, yeah, those are... Okay. At first, I thought that was... Okay, whoever made this website, fix that. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. 5 cost 2/5/2. So, villain, alien, pirate. That's pretty cool. So yeah, works with the Jolly Roger as we established. And while he has damage, he gets 3 additional power. Cool. It's a C, right? It's going to come down. It's going to quest, and your opponent's going to need to challenge it. And if they can't kill it in a 1 hit, it's going to be pretty hard for them to get rid of. Cool. I see some usage for this card, again, especially with the Jolly Roger as well. Next, you got Sumerian Talisman, 3-cost item. During your turn, whenever one of your characters is banished in a challenge, you may draw a card. Okay, cool. It's during your turn only, but that seems pretty good. You just play this and start trading off your guys, and you're going to come out on top. Yeah, I think it's very specific. I think it's a C, maybe a C+, because, again, it does provide a lot of card advantage. But, again, I don't think it's a slam dunk. Like a B or an A, obviously. But I do think this card is pretty impressive. I'm curious to see where that card goes. All right, next, I've Got a Dream. Oh, I remember this from, this is, freaking, whatever it's called. Tangled, right? Yeah. 2-cost, action song. Ready a chosen character of yours at a location. They can't quest for this turn, but you gain lore equal to that location's quest value. This is such a high requirement, but if it ever works, it's just so good. I'm gonna give it a C minus because I think a lot of people are gonna end up playing this card, but a lot of times this card is gonna end up inked. But there could be a situation where, you've got your character, you quest with it, or you attack with it, and you then play this. You get a little bit of extra lore and maybe fight something. So yeah, this card does a lot if it actually goes off. It's just pretty requirement because, again, you have to actually have a character at a location, and it's got to have the lore value that you're going to get, and yeah, you also want to be able to do something with it afterwards. So, but man, those are some pretty interesting uncommons there. Cool. All right, next up we've got the steel cards here. Got the Bayou. So, and I think I looked down upon this when I first saw it, but now realizing the power of 1-cost locations. This card is probably going to be pretty good. 1 cost, 3 willpower, 1 quest value, 1 to move, and whenever a character quests while here, you can draw a card and then discard a card. So the effect on there is pretty minor, but again, just having a 1 cost location. The 3 willpower makes it a little bit iffy, so it's probably going to end up being more like a C minus. But again, it's still in the C range. Again, I think if Steel wants a location, this is a fine one. Next up, we got Nala, 3 cost, 2/4/2. Vanilla. It's fine. It's probably more like a D plus. I'm probably not happy to play this in your deck, but it's fine. It quests for 2 again. It's got a decent willpower. Okay. We've got Mr. Smee here, Clumsy Sailor. Oof. 2 cost, 3/3 for 3/3/2. Okay. Where are we going here? It says at the end of this turn, if this character is exerted and you don't have a captain character in play, he takes 1 damage. That's it. We just have to have some captains. We've got the Captain Hook in Steel, the 1 cost. That's a captain. That's not that hard. Yeah, this seems like a C plus. I think if you can enable this, if you can have a captain in play, you can also just like have this out as a 2 cost 3/3 and quest for them once, and then it's a 2 cost. It's a 2 cost 3/3/2 essentially. Yeah, cool. I think you're pretty happy to just quest with this and then have your opponent kill it, right? You probably trade for it, since that three power is pretty good. Yeah, I think this is a C plus. I think if this card has enough to make it work, it's gonna work pretty well. This sorry, different language here. All right. We got Little John, 3 cost, 2/4/1, and it's got Bodyguard, and also during your turn, this character has Evasive. Okay, I mean the Evasive is nice. I just feel like there's actually the Evasive is pretty okay, because if you're challenging stuff, yeah, I think this gets a C. Again, I think you can probably slot this into some decks. I think there's just so many Bodyguards now that like it might not end up making the cut, but it's pretty fine for what it is. Oh, sorry, let me look at this guy. Got Thaddeus E. Clang. 5 cost, 3/5/2. Okay, I'm interested. Whenever this character is in a location and quests, can deal 1 damage to a chosen character. Okay, so kind of like Hans from Steel, but takes a little bit more to get going. It's a C. If there's a location deck and you can get this at a location, it's probably fine. But I think you should just play Hans instead of this, right? It's cheaper. I guess this has more health, but Hans always does the thing, whereas this does not. So take with that what you will. All right, we've got Captain Hook's Rapier here, 3 cost uninkable. During your turn, whenever one of your characters banishes another character in a challenge, you can pay 1 to draw a card, and your character's named Captain Hook gain Challenger 1. All right, so this is an interesting card. It works specifically with Captain Hook, right? But also you can just play it, or sorry, you get a benefit to your Captain Hook characters if you have those. But also, again, it's very similar to the Ruby card that we saw, right? Where when you kill one of your opponent's things, you can get a little bit of card advantage and pay 1 by just paying 1. So the uninkable aspect of the card probably limits it. Probably if this card sees play, it'll be only at 1 or 2. But it's nice that this card gives you something if you're not doing that, right? If you just have a Captain Hook card, and if you have multiples draw multiples of these, God forbid, you get a little bit of bonus again to your Captain Hook characters. But generally speaking, I don't think those cards are that very good. It's probably going to be more like a D. Because again, unless you're using, I guess it could be a C. Because again, if you're just using it for the first effect, it's probably fine. And if you're doing that and you're drawing cards, you're probably okay. But I don't know. Next up, we got Lithos, 4 cost, 4/1/1. But it's got resist 2, which is pretty interesting. But of course, this still just dies to a smash or something like that. But maybe its effect here is good. Exert to give chosen character resist to this turn. It's probably still fine if you curve this into like a Maui or something. Also note that there are a kind of a Titan package here. There's multiple Titans in the Steel, and I forget what other color it is, but there's some Titans stuff going on. So it's pretty good there. Again, it's pretty good that you have this as a Titan that you can play and protect your things. So yeah, it's probably fine. Sorry, so congested. It'll probably be a C, a solid C, maybe a C minus, because again, that one willpower is pretty sad. Next, we got Rise of the Titans, 3 cost action, banish a location or item. So kind of an upgrade to whatever the old steel card was that banished items. So for just one more, you get to banish a location as well. I think this will likely replace that card if it existed to begin with. But again, this is a solid tech card, so we're not going to give it a particular grade. But if you want a card to particularly banish locations or items, it's a fine card to do it with. All right, then last for our uncommons here, we've got Simba, Rightful King, 5 cost, 4/6/1, hero and a king, nice. And then during your turn, whenever this banishes a character in a challenge, chosen opposing character can't challenge during their next turn. That's a pretty good effect, right? If you manage to, if your opponent is challenging a bunch of your stuff, you manage to kill one of their small things, you target one of their large things, and then it can't challenge your guys. Obviously, they can still just quest with it, so all that included, I think this card is going to end up being more like a D, maybe a D plus. Again, I think. Nah, I just don't see this card's just a little too expensive. Maybe the king aspect if you're using it with the Pride Lands card that's in the set. Maybe it's a little good, but I really just don't see how this card makes its way into decks when, again, we've got things like Big Tinkerbell that just completely outshadow this card. All right, so I think that's it for the Steel Uncommons. All right, moving on to Amber here. A couple of uncommons to go through. Got Raleigh, 3 cost, 3/3 support. 3/3/1 support. Very underwhelming. I want to say a D. Yeah, D is just like it's fine, but it's really not what you want. Nani, 5 cost, 3/6/2, Bodyguard. That seems pretty good to me. Again, we've had a couple of these 5 cost bodyguards, but they've been kind of on the downturn. But this is still fine. Questing for 2. It's kind of like a better version of Goofy, right? I don't think Goofy quested for 2. Or was it Maximus? Maximus, one of those. Right. This questing for 2 is really nice. So yeah, it's probably C, more like a C minus. Just again, the 5 cost bodyguards have not been making a huge stay in the meta. We got this Wildcat's Wrench, 2 cost item, remove 2 damage from chosen location. Again, hate these cards. I think it's an F. If people want to say it's a D, D minus, fine, but I think it's a pretty solid F from me. We've got this is Tinkerbell, Generous Fairy, 4 cost, uninkable of note, and it's 1/4/1. It comes into play. You look at the top 4 cards, you get a character, put into your hand, rest in the bottom. So it's basically a Be Our Guest on a stick. So there's been a couple of these cards now, right? We had the Grandma Tala or whatever, and now we've got this one. I think this is pretty worse when you compare it to Be Our Guest. Yes, you get a body with it, but it has no keywords on it. It has no protection. Has only quest for 1. It's uninkable. There's just too much that this card, limits you on. So yeah, I'm not super impressed with this card. It's kind of interesting that it's commanding a. This says it's 280 on TCG Player, but I think that's just because of pre-orders. So yep. I think this is a D for me. Again, I don't really see a lot of decks playing this. Yeah. Again, I think Be Our Guest for now is a little bit better. Next up, we got Wendy Darling, a 2 cost, 1/3/2 vanilla, but questing for 2 again is really nice. 3 willpower as well is nice. I think it's a solid C. Again, I don't know how much decks are playing stuff like this. Again, there's still Stitch Rockstar decks, so just putting this in your Stitch Rockstar decks, putting it out alongside a Simba, could be just fine. Cool. Again, these cards again are perfectly fine. They're very serviceable. They don't often just again jump out at you, but they're perfectly fine. This card, however, I know a lot of people are freaking out over the shift target for this card, but this card is very impressive to me. So Pluto, Friendly Pooch, 1 cost, uninkable, O2, quest for 1, but you can exert it to pay 1 less for the next character you play this turn. So in Magic, if you come from Magic, many of you will know this as a mana dork. Basically, a cheap character that can accelerate your plays. So you can potentially play a 3-cost character on turn 2. You have this in your opener, and that's really, really, really strong. We've already seen how Lantern and Dock are already main staples in the game. Tons of decks taking usage of those cards. And this card is the same, except it can also quest, right? It's kind of like, I don't want to say it's better than Lantern, because again, it's still vulnerable to removal and can be challenged and all those things, but it's very good. It's going to be very, very good. I think this makes it to a B. I think this is a really, really powerful card for Amber, and I think a lot of decks are going to make usage of it. Again, also kind of taking into account the Shift Pluto as well, the Floodborn Pluto, which we'll take a look at when we get to, I think it's a super rare. This is a card I love. Queen of Hearts, Wonderland Empress, 3-cost, 3/3/1. Villain Queen, whenever it quests, your other villains get +1 lore this turn. This is a card that I've been looking for my villain deck. I don't know if I'll actually revisit it. I've kind of moved on to other things, but man, I love this card. A 3/3 stat line is fine. Questing for 1's great, but if you have this with a couple of other villains, again, in the Amber Amethyst deck, right, you have your Maleficent, you've got, your Vasiliers and your Yzmas. You go 1-cost villain, 2-cost villain, this, and all of a sudden you're questing for an insane amount. So I think this is almost a C+. Again, it's not a B, clearly. It's again, a very, only really good in a specific kind of deck, and even in those decks, it's only okay, right? It helps the decks a little bit. It's not going to change how those decks are built. It's just going to be included. It'll be a nice tool in those decks, and yeah. Next up, we've got Tiana's Palace, 3-cost location, uninkable, but it's got 8 willpower, 1 lore counter, but it costs 2 to move characters here. But it says that characters can't be challenged while here. So basically giving protection to any characters there is pretty good. Again, the uninkable nature of this card makes me nervous, and also paying 2 to move something there, but should be a pretty nice location, I think, when everything comes down to it. I think you'll be able to play this, have it survive, and then attach a character to it, and your opponent will either be forced to kill this location, or they won't be able to challenge your character that's there. So yeah, it seems good. This also could be more of like a late game card, right? Where you play this out. You still can play it out early, but you don't need to actually put things there until you actually want to. And also, you can also just keep it here, and your opponent is kind of forced to challenge it, and then you can attack them back. There's I think there's room to play with this card. So I think it's a C, probably a C+ actually. I think this card could be good, but again, the uninkable nature is what makes me a little bit nervous about this card. And then we've got 99 Puppies here. It's 5-cost uninkable action. Whenever one of your characters quests this turn, you gain 1 lore. So it's the opposite of the Emerald card, the Steal from the Rich, which was like whenever they quest, your opponent loses 1 lore. So that card wasn't very good, and this card is kind of the same. Where again, I describe it as a win more card. Where if this card is good, you're probably already winning the game. If you're getting I don't know how much lore you want to get off of this, but 2, 3, 4, lore, you're doing just fine, and you're probably better off just playing another character and using that, or using some interactions, some removal, or something like that. If you're ever behind on board, or like you're ever losing in a game and you draw this card, you're just going to feel super sad. It's going to be really bad than just drawing any other card that has an impact on the board or gives you extra cards or anything. These cards, can feel really good when they work, but when they don't hit, they feel super bad. So I think I'm gonna give it a C-. Again, it can be good. These cards can be played. This one's a little bit better than, again, it's easier to play while you're ahead, as opposed to Steal from the Rich was you kind of have to wait for your opponent to get a bunch of lore and then steal from them. But this you can kind of just play while you're ahead. You can maybe have a quick victory there, but generally speaking, I'm not very impressed with this card. So yeah, C, C- for for 99 puppies, but it is cool artwork. I do like that artwork. All right, let's move on to the Amethyst uncommons. All right, we've got our Amethyst uncommons here. We've got, first up, we've got Magica Dispel, the uncommon here, the Thieving Sorceress. 4 cost for 3/4, quest for 2, which is nice. Villain Sorcerer, okay, sticking with that theme. You can exert it to return chosen item with cost equal to or less than this character's power to its player's hand. Interesting. So some item interaction in Amethyst here. Right, so if it's on the field, if you got something like a fishbone quill, right, if this can return a fishbone quill, a lantern, all these various artifacts that previously were pretty difficult for Amethyst to deal with. You now get Magic Dispel. This also, again, has a shift target, but this kind of looks just fine, just is as a tech card. I don't think it's really a card that a lot of decks are going to main deck, or like a main deck, again, I say this as if we have sideboards. I think in a particular meta where, again, there's enough items going around, and maybe if you already have Magica Dispel in your deck, the Floodborn one, you might run this. So yeah, I'll give it like a tech card C. It can also just be played, but yeah, I think generally speaking, you're not gonna really want to use. I guess you could also use it for yourself. You can like exert an item, like use an item that has an exert ability, and then bounce it and do it again. Replay and do it again. And it's readied. So there's some things there, but generally speaking, this is going to be a C. It's going to be fine. I'll probably see some play, but it's not like super key. But it is important to note that Amethyst getting a little bit of interaction in terms of items as opposed to just steel or emerald or anything like that. Next up, we got Last Ditch Effort, uninkable 3-cost action. Exert chosen opposing character, then choose one of your characters to gain Challenger 2 this turn. So the effect itself is really good, but the uninkable nature of this card really makes this hard. Probably gonna stick this with like. I think this is just a D+. I mean, like, because we already have Freeze, right? Which is Freeze inkable? Oh no, Freeze isn't inkable either. So maybe this is fine. Maybe this is just like a C-, and only a certain kind of deck is going to play this. But even then, I think this is closer to a D. I don't know. What do you guys think of this card? Let me know. I don't know how to evaluate this kind of card because, again, uninkable nature is pretty hardcore. All right, let's see. We got Chernobog's Followers here. 1 cost, 2/1/1. And let's see, it's just Storyborn Ally. Okay, no interesting type there. I thought there would be some interesting subtype there. There is not. Just whenever it quests, you can banish it to draw a card. Okay. I mean, I guess you can play it, get a lore out of it, and then you just draw a card off of it. Like, you assume that your opponent is going to play something that's going to be able to challenge it, like a 2/3 or really anything. Most things in the game can kill a 2/1. So you just play it on turn 1. You use it to draw an extra card. Maybe you draw a late game and you can use it to trigger your draw effects like the Jafar and the Maleficent that we'll see later on. So yeah, there's a lot of draw theme or synergy going on in Amethyst, which is good because that's cool. And yeah, that card will probably be fine. It's probably a C. Yeah, probably just a C. Solid C. Let's see, we got Magic Broom, Dancing Duster. 6 cost, 3/3/1. It is a broom. It's important to note. When you play this character, you have a sorcerer in play, so probably the Mickey. You can choose another opposing character. They can't ready at the start of their next turn. That's pretty good. So this kind of pairs well with Mickey Mouse Sorcerer. Right? Mickey Mouse Sorcerer comes down on turn 4. Right, Mickey says you pay 1 less for your brooms, and so then you can play this on turn 5 if your Mickey survives, and prevents whatever your opponent has from readying, and boom, you got yourself a 3/3 and a nice little tempo play there. Yeah, it seems fine. In the broom deck, it's probably a C, right? It's perfectly fine. Let's see what we got here. We got It Calls Me. 1 cost. Action song here. Draw a card, then choose up to 3 cards from your opponent's discard and shuffle them into your opponent's deck. So obviously, if your opponent has, if it's playing Amethyst or playing any kind of graveyard recursion, the Tamatoa, right, item recursion or anything like that, get rid of the popsicles. So there are ways to kind of interact with that. And it's just a 1 cost, song that draws a card. This is probably fine. It's probably just a C, right? Cantrips are good. Right, we know that again. Nothing to hide is good. Develop your brain, so I'll play for a little bit. And this card is probably going to be fine as well. Again, the Amethyst decks in particular do like drawing cards, so it's probably pretty good. Next up, we got Hydros, the Ice Titan, 3 cost, 2/2 Titan. Right, so this is again part of that Titan package, and it's got 2/2 and exert to exert a chosen character. Yeah, this is a C plus. I think this is a really powerful card. Very very good. Just in pretty much any Amethyst deck. Right, but also again, if you pair this with the Titans, it'll be pretty good there too. Yeah, your opponent's going to want to challenge it, and you're also going to be able to probably defend it if you have powerful characters to use it and then exert stuff and gain some board advantage. This is a cool card. I'm excited to see what this card does. All right, next up we've got the Sorcerer's Tower. Very, very cool card. 3 cost, location, 7 willpower. Does not have any lore counters on it, but you can also move them for 2. But Magic Broom characters move here for free, and characters get +1 lore while here. So another card that works well with the brooms. I think it'll work really, really well with Mickey. So if you're just kind of thinking of the curve, you have either of the brooms on turn 2. So there's a couple of them. You play this on turn 3, and then you play Mickey Mouse, and then next turn you play whatever the big sweeper or the dancing duster, right? So you can kind of see how the deck can kind of play or build itself, and that's pretty cool. And yeah, also just by itself, getting characters here +1 lore could be good, but again, the high move cost could be a barrier there. But I think there's a lot here. I think this is a C. I think there's going to be something that you can do with this card. And again, also it being inkable is also nice. So yeah, I'm definitely really excited to do more with the Magic Brooms and Mickey Mouse Sorcerer. I'm very excited for that. All right, next we got Jafar Lamp Thief, 3 cost, 2/2. So again, really like the stats on this card. Villain Sorcerer, obviously, and then when you play it, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them on top and the other on bottom, so you get a little card selection there. You don't get card advantage if this card put the card that you chose into your hand. This would be insane. Obviously, that would make it better than Maleficent, but you get a little benefit, and it seems fine. Again, C, probably even C plus, because that effect is nothing to scoff at. Again, it's not as good as drawing a card, but it's fairly close. And questing for 2 is also really big. And then, of course, we have the Jafar Floodborn card that kind of can work well with this. Just having all the Jafars in general is pretty good. All right, next up we've got Madame Odie. 6 cost, uninkable, 3/6/2. And whenever this character quests, you can move up to 2 damage from one of your characters. Sorry, from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So that's kind of cool that you can move damage not just from your own characters, but from if you do some damage to a bodyguard or a Maui for like something, or a Maui has a little bit of damage on it because it challenged something, but then they have a smaller character. You can move the damage and kill the smaller thing. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But it's uninkable and it's like, I don't know, kind of replaceable in what it does. But I could maybe see this card doing something. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting. I'm gonna give it a C. Again, I think it could see some play. It's not a D, right? It's not a D. It's not a B. So yeah, it's probably somewhere in the C range. Cool. All right, and that's all we got for the Amethyst cards here. All right, moving on to our Emerald Uncommons here. We've got Friar Tuck here. 4 cost, 2/2. When you play this, the player or players with the most cards in hand choose and discard a card. I'm pretty impressed with this card. I think the discard deck might just pick this up and slot it in. Yeah, it seems good. Um, yeah, assuming you are a deck that is playing out your hand and questing a lot, which again this card kind of wants to do, you'll get a card out of your opponent or opponents if you're in multiplayer, and you'll feel pretty good. I think it's actually a C plus. I don't think it's a B, but I think this is very good. I really like this card. I really like the design of this card. I think it's really nice. All right, got our uncommon location in Emerald and Cusco's Palace. 3 cost, 7 willpower, 1 lore count, and 3 move something. Oh boy. It says whenever a character is challenged and banished while here, banish the challenging character. Okay, so I mean it's a very strong effect, but you have to get your character here, and it's quite a tax, right? Um, my guess is this is probably more like a C minus, D plus, C minus. Um, just the number, like the effect is good, but the amount of work that it takes for this card to work uh seems like a lot. Um, and again, this is only while it's when it's challenged, even, right? It could just be killed. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. Yeah, I will leave it at that for now. All right, next up we've got Wildcat Mechanic, 3 cost, 2/3/1, evasive, and it can exert to banish an item. This is, man, I wish there was a realm between other than C plus. I wish there was a number like a grade between B and C plus, because it's kind of like a tech card, like, but it's like an A tech card because, right, you slot this into your deck. It's an evasive. It can just quest, but also if your opponent just plays an item, it's just gone. Like this is really good if like in Emerald, right? If you're trying to make sure your opponent doesn't have items, you struggle against a particular item, or you just want to have that option. This is a slam dunk for me. Yeah, I guess I'll say tech card A, but overall, right, it's again more like a C plus. Um, yeah, very cool card. Very happy to see something like this. This is really cool. Very good design too. All right. Next up, we've got Prince John. Oh, this card. 5 cost, 2/4. Oh, I thought it was really. It's a 2/4. I thought it was a 4/4. Oh, this card is a lot worse than I thought it was. But we'll get to it. 5 cost, 2/4/2. So questing for 2 is nice. Not the best stat line, but when it quests, each opponent with more lore than you loses 2 lore. So there's been some questions on how this works, right? First, you quest, you get the lore, and then you track, right? And see, okay, what is my lore compared to the opponent's? And yeah, I still think it's pretty cool. It's probably pretty good still. If you can just get 1 trigger out of this, it's probably fine. So yeah, I think it's a C. It's a playable card. The uninkable makes it unfortunate, but again, a lot of the 5 cost cards that are playable often end up being uninkable unless they're like rare or or sorry, unless they're like a super rare or legendary or something like that. But yeah. There's another cloud kicker, but it's not really working with the shift cloud kicker, but it's still a good card. We've got 3 cost, sorry, Kit Cloud Kicker Tough Guy, 3 cost, 2/2/1. And when you play this, you can return a chosen opposing character with power 2 or less to their owner's hand. So nice little tempo positive play. If your opponent has a 2 cost thing, that can be one of the small, again, Lilo or Maleficence. Again, it can also be an expensive card like the Prince John's here or anything like that. I'm trying to think of other cards that would be expensive but have uh, low power, right? I guess like some Tinkerbell cards have 2 power. There are cards in the game that this card can just snipe and really set your opponent back. That being said, it's still again just a C plus maybe. I do like the card. I think it's a cool card to have. I do like characters that give you that tempo. tempo neutral play. Cool. Ooh, this the oh this is the okay. I thought this was in a different color, or like this was a different card. And that I like was like that card's in a different color, but this card is pretty cool. Again, got touched my heart. 2 cost action song, and banish an item. Awesome. Again, I think it's still just a tech card. And even then, I actually think that the other card was a little bit better. This being a song is nice. I think they're both, again, just tech cards. This is more like a tech card C. Um, as, again, it kind of only does the thing. Wildcat, again, does something besides just banishing items, right? It can quest, it can be evasive. That's pretty good. This you can play for free potentially, but all it does is banish the item. So, take with that which you will. Next up, we got Starkey Devious Pirate. 7 cost, 6/6/3, so kind of like the King Louis that we saw before. This one is a pirate also, but yeah, I'm not too impressed with this card. I think most Emerald decks don't really want to be getting up to this ink count. So my guess is this is more like a D, maybe a C minus. But yeah, it's a vanilla card. If decks want it, it's there. This card's pretty interesting. Robin's Bow, 3 cost item, uninkable, but you can tap it to deal 1 damage to a chosen character or location. And whenever one of your characters named Robin Hood quest, you can ready this item. So again, another one of these items, like we saw with the Captain Hook sword or whatever it was, giving you a base effect. And this effect is pretty good. And then giving you a little bit of an extra bonus should you have a Robin Hood out. And yeah, I think this is pretty good. It's going to be a C, probably maybe even a C plus, because as long as you get some damage on a character or location, you can just repeatedly damage it and keep going and keep going and keep going. And if your opponent doesn't deal with it, this thing is going to pack on a lot of damage. And if you ever just have a random Robin Hood character in your deck, which again I think most are, because I think the legendary Robin Hood from this set is an Emerald, if I'm remembering correctly. It's either Emerald or Amber, so it must be. Anyways, should be pretty good. So C plus for that. Next up, we've got Ursula Deceiver, 2 cost, 1/3/1. When you play this card, chosen opponent reveals their hand and discards a song card of your choice. This is a very powerful card. A lot of people, talking about this ripping at a Be Prepared or something from your opponent. A very key song card. It can only hit songs. It doesn't hit action cards, interestingly enough. So that's kind of unfortunate. But like a lot of the good cards that most, I guess actions that most decks play do end up being songs, right? We got Grab Your Swords, Be Prepared, Whole New World, Be Our Guest. I'm trying to think of some of the ones from Amber. There's like You Have Forgotten Me. There's, Part of Your World. There's a couple of these playable song cards. There's a One Jump Ahead, or there's Let It Go from Sapphire. So yeah, a bunch of the powerful meta-relevant action cards that we end up seeing do end up being songs. So yeah, I think this card is looking like I was gonna say C plus, but I almost want to say a B, like almost like a B minus. It just like seems like such a good card just to put in your deck. The stats are a little bit weak, and again, it only quests for 1, so maybe you don't really want to do that. But also in the discard deck that kind of just wants to snipe cards from their opponent's hand anyways, might just slot into that deck really easily. So yeah, I think you will see this card. So yeah, C plus, B minus, however you wanna interpret it. Awesome. A lot of these Emerald uncommons were pretty good, right? Friar, Wildcat, Kit, right? Even Touch My Heart. Yeah, a lot of these Emerald uncommons were pretty good. Cool. All right, onto Sapphire. All right, we are on to our last couple of uncommon cards. We're on to Sapphire here. Got Queen Mirror Seeker. 4 cost, 2/5/1. When you play this, when this character quests, you can look at the top 3, put them back in any order. I took a look at this card, and I think it's pretty mediocre. It's not actual card advantage, and you don't get the option of putting the cards on the bottom. This card would be a lot better if you could like look at 3 cards, decide that they're bad, and put them all on the bottom. Unfortunately, you're always stuck with right choosing those 3 cards and putting them back on top. Obviously, you can stack them in whatever way you want. So you can always choose the best card to draw next. But yeah, I think this card's again super medium. I think it's going to end up being more like a D. I just don't really see a reason why you would put this in a deck. Next up, we got the shift target for the cloud kicker that we saw earlier, the 1-cost ward. This is cloud kicker navigator, 6-cost 2/5/3, with shift 3 and ward. So yeah, you again as I was talking about with the other card, 1 cost with ward turns into a 2/5 with ward, and questing for 3 is nothing to scoff at. So yeah. This card is pretty bad, though, if you play it normally. But again, assuming you can get the shift off, it's going to be really powerful. So my guess is this is going to be more like a C. Again, you could use it, but it does have some risk. So yeah. I don't also think it doesn't really slot into a lot of decks well, where, again, no deck is like, this doesn't like do anything special. It just kind of quests and has words, so it's not particularly unique or interesting. But again, it could see some usage, so we'll leave it at a C. Next up, we've got Flintheart Gloomgold. Oh boy, that was a mouthful. 4-cost 3/4/2. Oh, it's a duck. It's another duck. It's a duck villain. I'll never see it coming. During your turn, this gets evasive. All right, we've seen a bunch of these. They're all fine, but a card like this never really does anything. This is looking like a D to me. It's just really not doing enough. Next up, we've got Scrooge McDuck. Uncle Moneybags. Love that. And the art, too. Awesome, great. 2-cost 1/3/1. And whenever this character quests, you pay 1 less for the next item you play this turn. Awesome. Cool. Slam dunk. It's probably going to be more like a C+. It could be a B, as again, the Sapphire decks are currently playing a ton of items, right? The Maurice, Ariel, Tamatoa, all of those things, all in one kind of place, and this card just synergizes with that even more. There's also a Scrooge McDuck, I believe, shift card as well, so this works with that as well. So yeah, this card's really good. It might end up being more like a B- or C+, but this card will definitely see some usage because items are cool. Next up, we got, this is a different language, but we all kind of can tell what it does. Genie, itty bitty living space. Love that. 2-cost 2/2/2, and that's it. Again, this is basically just another copy of Aurora. But Genie does have some shift targets, so yeah, it's a C, probably a C+, actually. Again, Sapphire deck's probably gonna experiment with that card a little bit. Except we've got Scrooge's Top Hat, 2-cost uninkable item. You can exert it to pay 1 less for the next item you play this turn. So it is essentially a lantern, but for items. So it's interesting that it kind of makes other top hats cheaper. So that probably leads to a good card, right? But I'm not sure. I'm going to say C for now, but this could certainly be a B, right? This could certainly be a lantern level card, but for Sapphire. But for now, we'll just leave it at a C. Again, both of these cards kind of performing a similar function, so I think they're both still good. All right, next up we got How Far I'll Go. 4-cost uninkable action song. And you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, the other into your inkwell, face down and exerted. I was really interested in this card, but again, I think everyone has established that being uninkable and trying to sing this card out, it's just a bit too much. So yeah, this is probably going to be more like a D. I can see it being a C if someone ends up making it work, but generally speaking, I don't think it's particularly good. But again, the other cards that help you ramp are just a little bit better, cheaper, and just easier to use. That being said, you know, it does replace itself. It does essentially draw a card at cantrips, so you know, it's cool, but you know, we'll see where it ends up. But I don't think it's particularly good. Next up, we got Montanui, the Sapphire uncommon location here. 2 cost, 5 willpower, 1 ink, or sorry, one quest value, and 1 to move. And whenever a character is banished while here, you can put that card into your inkwell face down and exerted. Cool. It seems fine, right? Again, kind of along with all the other locations, it's C. You know, if there's a location deck in Sapphire, people are going to try this out, and also helps you ramp, right? If your stuff dies, that seems pretty cool to me. Cool. And then we've got the second of the 3 duck others. They brothers, cousins. I don't know. We got Dewey here. 3 cost, 2/3/2. Support 2. The stats for this card are actually pretty good, but again, support is such a minor ability. I'll give it a D plus. It's again, it's probably if you like support, it's here, but I really don't like the support mechanic. I think so far it has not really gotten a lot of usage, and cool, it's here. But while that card might not be as impressive, some of the other cards here, like the item stuff, is pretty cool. All right, so that is it for the uncommons. Now it's time to get to the spicy stuff, the rares, the super rares, and the legendaries. All right, we're here for our rares, and yeah, let's take a look. We're looking at the Ruby cards here. We've got On Your Feet Now, right now. 4 cost action, uninkable, so it better be good. Ready all your characters and deal 1 damage to each of them. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. Okay, I guess you can like use this. So you quest with your stuff, you ready them, you challenge, and like maybe that sets you up. But kind of like with the 99 puppies or the steal from the rich card, you know, if you draw this while you're behind, you're gonna feel really bad, and it's not even inkable. So yeah, my guess is this is actually a D. I don't really think this card is going to be played that much. Yeah, it's powerful when it works, but when it doesn't, man, it's going to feel really bad. Next up, we got the RLS Legacy. 4 cost, location, uninkable, but 8 willpower. It's a lot, and it's got 2 quest symbols, or sorry, 2 lore symbols, whatever we're calling them. 3 costs to move, but it has a lot of text in the text box here. Characters gain evasive while here. All right, awesome. Off to a great start. It's a really powerful effect. It says if you have a character here, you pay 2 less to move a character of yours here. So if you have something there already, right, then it's cheaper to move stuff there afterwards. So if you have somebody kind of like manning the ship, right, then it's easier to move stuff there. First of all, great flavor, but also potentially a very powerful card. You just give 1 thing evasive, and you just keep playing things and putting stuff there and giving them evasive. So yeah, this seems really good in a Ruby deck that is not trying to you know, kind of challenge and is just trying to quest up. I guess also you could use it to prevent your like Maois and stuff from being challenged. Like you have your Maui, you have this out, it's gaining lore. You play your Maui and you challenge stuff and they can't challenge it back. Okay, yeah, I think all around this card's just kind of good. I think this could be a B, like a solid B, maybe a B minus, because again, I think it takes a little bit to get going. Again, also could end up just being like a C, but probably not, because again, if you're playing this, it's because it's uninkable, because it's also uninkable again. So you really have to be wanting to play this out. But again, I also think that the 8 willpower and the 2 quest, the 2 lore symbols there are gonna do a lot of work. So yeah, my guess is this is probably gonna end up somewhere as a B. Again, that evasive attack clause is just so good, and if this ever gets going, it's just gonna feel so crazy. All right, next up we've got Simba Scrappy Cub. 2 cost uninkable, 1/1/3. This is basically Pinocchio, whatever the Amethyst Pinocchio. for Ruby. And you might ask yourself, well, wait a second, like Ruby's not known for being a particularly aggressive deck. How good this is going to be, I have no idea, but I know that if there is a deck that if there is an aggressive, a pretty quest heavy Ruby deck, that's going to be a slam dunk. And yeah, I think this is again probably more like a C plus. Can we kind of put the Maleficents and the Lilos in this category? Kind of is where it's supposed to be. Again, it's not a standout card, but in the aggressive decks in Ruby, it's going to be there and it's going to do the work. All right, next up we got Maui's Fishhook here, 3-cost item. They have a character named Maui in play. You can use the shapeshift ability down below for free, meaning you still have to exert it, but you don't have to pay the lore cost there. So it still gets used up, but you don't have to pay the cost. So you get to choose one. Chosen character gains evasive until the start of your next turn, or chosen character gets +3 attack this turn. So cool. You could potentially give it to your Maui to have it be able to challenge evasives, or if it needs to kill something large, you can do that. This seems like more like a tech card, though. Again, if your opponent doesn't have evasive things, I guess also you can use, if you have Maui, it doesn't have to target your Maui. You can target your other things. But yeah, generally speaking, I don't think the decks that are playing Maui, though, are like I'm thinking of the Ruby, again, Maui, Hero to All. I don't imagine those decks particularly being interested in an item like this, but I think there could be something. Again, there's also you saw the uncommon one that does the questing with Hey Hey. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a C. It probably could do something if someone builds around it. It's just not particularly flashy or anything like that. It's pretty like, okay, you get a little bit of extra benefit. All right, next up we got Peter Pan, Pirate's Bane, 6-cost 4/5/2. She's got the shift ability, which is cool. It's got evasive, and when it challenges a pirate, it takes no damage from the challenge. So that's pretty cool. But also just having evasive is nice. Cool. Yeah. Again, I'm not familiar with the shift targets, but if we're just imagining a 6-cost 4/5 evasive that quests for 2, that can sometimes just like challenge something and take no damage, it's probably pretty good. Yeah, I'd probably give it a C plus, maybe a B. I don't even think it's a B minus. It's not a B minus. It's just a C. It's just a C. It's a good card. It can see some play, but yeah, a little expensive. And again, not sure how relevant that clause is going to come up, because keep in mind, it's not if it's challenged, if it's in a challenge with a pirate, it has to challenge a pirate. So yeah, but still good. Next up, we got Captain Hook, Master Swordsman, 5-cost 5/4/1. Again, the same subtypes that we've had so far on Captain Hook. During your turn, whenever this banishes another character in a challenge, ready this character, can quest for the rest of this turn. Awesome. Cool. It kind of is meant to be challenging. It's got a decent body, so it can do that pretty effectively. And it says characters named Peter Pan lose evasive and can't gain evasive. This is most likely, even with all of the first part of the card, it's probably going to be more like a D minus. It's just too specific. The second part of this card is really not going to come up often. And if you're using the card for the first effect, there's better cards to use. Again, we've got Scar, that is super powerful. Yeah. Again, if you care about pirates, it's a pirate. If you care about villains, it's a villain. But besides that, not particularly impressed. All right, this card is insane. Sorry, I gotta get the English translation here, because we're gonna have to read this one and really dissect this, because it took me a little bit to understand this card when it first came out. So first of all, Maui Whale. It's just whale. Just whale. All right, so 7-cost 8/8/1. And it says, this character doesn't ready at the start of your turn. First of all, love that we're experimenting with cards not readying at the start of your turn. There's also some other cards that have various downsides and upsides potentially. So you might say, okay, it doesn't ready at the start of your turn. How do you use this card? Well, it says you can pay 2 and ready this character, can't quest for the rest of this turn. So this thing is just a big smacking mallet. You slam it down, and you can start just kill that thing, ready it, kill that thing, ready it, kill that thing, ready it, and yeah, as an 8/8, that thing's gonna be good. And if you're not planning on using it, you can just leave it exerted, and it will do just fine. Obviously, you can quest with it as well, so it does still gain lore. It's not just a reckless card; it still has the ability to quest before you use the ability. So yeah, cool. I think again, it's a little expensive, but could see a little bit of usage, but overall, it's probably just a C. But honestly, might be a C minus. Again, it's just a little bit too expensive, and but it is a very cool card in terms of design. I do like it. I think this card would be pretty cool in the draft environment where it's killing everything. It's killing everything. All right, next up we got Moana, Born Leader. 5 cost, 4/4/2. All right, so we already like those stats. It is a captain of note. That is, again, we saw that be a relevant subtype. It's got shift for 3. I don't know, again, what the shift targets would be for it, but again, that's okay. Whenever this quest, while at a location, you ready all the other characters at the location. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. Again, very, very, very specific. You have to have, again, if you shift it out, I guess it's fine, but you have to have this out. You have to have other characters at a location, and your payoff is you get to fight with them or you get to keep them safe. I think this is like a C, maybe a C minus. It's like I want to like this card, but yeah, it's okay. Again, it's still fine stats, and again, you have that shiftability. Again, I'm just struggling to think of the cheaper if there is a cheaper Moana. I don't know of it, but yeah, card's fine. It takes a little bit to work. It's probably not going to work a lot. If it ever works, it'll be pretty good. Is that all we got? Awesome. That's all we got for the rares here. Kind of underwhelming, to be honest. Like, besides like Simba and the legacy here, I'm not particularly impressed with the rares here. But again, the excitingness is going to happen when we get to the super rares and the legendaries. All right, looking at the steel rares here, we've got Mufasa, Champion of the Pride Lands. 7 costs, 3/10. Holy moly. 3. I really want to like this card, but I don't. It's pretty vanilla. It's high costed. It's giving me very much the goofy Night for a Day vibes, like 10 cost, 10/10. Yeah, this looks like a D, maybe probably even more like an F. It's got the king subtype, but I really just don't see a situation where this card is good in any way. Next up, we got Gustav the Giant. 3 cost, 6/6/1. Okay, so we have an overstated card here. Probably going to have some kind of downside or some kind of need to make it work. Of course, it says this character enters play exerted and can't ready at the start of your turn. All right. So then here's the next part, which is going to probably ready it, which it does. During your turn, whenever one of your other characters banishes another character in a challenge, you may ready this character. Interesting. So you have to be in a steel deck that is challenging things. We have the Jafar, whatever serpent card that is playing a lot of challenging cards, and we've got Prince Eric, and you've got Captain Hook, for some effective challenging. So I guess in that regard, it could potentially be good if you just have a Captain Hook or Prince Eric. Because the other thing is that you play this immediately, and then and you surprise your opponent with it and immediately challenge it. And then it readies. Cool. So yeah, it could potentially do that. The downside though is that again, if you have this as a top deck, it's a pretty bad card. It also doesn't work again with like just straight up removal. Like it doesn't work with grab your sword. It doesn't work with fire the cannons or anything like that. You have to actually be challenging. So it only works with specific kinds of steel cards. So I'm just gonna leave this at a C. I think it's cool. Again, I really like these interesting designs. Um, so if you can enable this card, again, it's gonna be pretty good. But besides that, yeah, I think it's gonna end up being more like a C. Um, yeah, but it's cool. It's still cool. Next up, we got Pyros, another one of the Titans here. 5 cost, 5/4 Titan. Quest for one. During your turn, whenever this banishes another character in a challenge, you ready a character. Could also be itself, right? Yeah, it can be itself. That's cool. So you can just like again, just this card by itself. So compare this to the Captain Hook card, right? This is the same thing, but also can just like do more interesting things. And also see, I think there's a Titan card that like gets a bunch of lore. I saw a picture of like someone describing the Titan package. I'll point it out when we find it, but I want to stay on theme here. Speaking of Titan stuff, we've got Hades, Irascible Ruler. I don't know if that's translated right, but anyways, 6 cost, 5/5/2, and you can exert it to ready your Titan characters. Oh, I didn't even realize it's ready all of them, or I thought it was ready one. It's just ready all of them. That seems pretty good to me. Yeah, that seems like a C, probably C plus. In the Titan deck, like if you were playing the Titans and you got these out, gonna feel really good. Next up, we've got John Silver, 3 cost, 3/3/1. The amount of subtypes on this card baffled me. Captain, Pirate, Alien, Villain, Dreamborn, obviously, but holy moly, a lot of subtypes there. And it says for each location you have in play, it gets resist 1 and 1 additional lore. That seems pretty good to me. That's a C plus. That's an easy C plus. I think this card's going to be good if you are playing out some locations. Cool. Next up, we got Map of Treasure Planet. Ah, cool. 3 cost item. You can exert it to pay 1 less for the next location you play this turn. Okay, and then you can pay 1 less to move your characters to a location. So this is kind of weird where this is it's an item card that works with locations, but locations require characters. So it's kind of hard to see this work where you can't run too many locations and you can't run too many of these and have enough characters. Yeah, you see what I mean? I think this looks like a D, probably an F. I just don't think you should worry about this. I think just play your locations normally. Next up, we got and then along came Zeus. 4 cost action song. Deal 5 damage to a character or location. Cool. Seems good. Being able to deal with locations is probably an important thing to be able to do if locations are going to be playable. It's only 5 damage, so it doesn't actually kill all of them. So we'll see how this plays out. But my guess is this is more like a C. It's just going to be a fine removal card. Maybe sometimes you sing it and kill something and you feel good. Maybe you snipe a location and you're happy with it. It being uninkable is a little hard, but it's fine. It's just a solid C. And then last for our uncommons, we've got, or sorry, for our rares, excuse me. We've moved on from the uncommons now. We've got Maui's Place of Exile, Hidden Island, 2 cost location, five willpower, no lore amount. 1 cost to move, and your characters gain resist while here. This seems pretty lackluster to me. Not having a lore amount, and that's about it. Resist 1 is nice, but and it can stack. So if your characters already have a resist amount, it'll stack. But I'm not particularly impressed with this card. It's more like a D. It has some usage, but I think it's more like a D. Again, we'll see if locations are that good, but yeah, my guess is it's more like a D. All right, let's move on to Amber. All right, looking at the Amber rares here. First up, we've got Minnie Mouse, musical artist. Nice art. All the Disney fans are gonna love this. 2 cost, 1/3/1. Singer 3. Okay, and then whenever you play a character with Bodyguard, you can remove 2 damage from a chosen character. Huh, interesting. I mean, Singer 3 is nice, but it's not that crazy given that it's already a 2 cost character. It can sing some things, I guess. But yeah, the big thing here is the bodyguard text. If there's a deck with a lot of bodyguards, it could be good. So give it a C. C's fine. Next up, we've got Bayou. Recost 03. Interesting. One quest value there, but it's got bodyguard, and when it's banished, gain 2 lore. Interesting. So if you put this out, bodyguarded, your opponent's forced to challenge it, and it's like it quested for 2. Huh. When you think about it that way, it's pretty good. And then if it never lives, it just quests again, and your opponent is forced to deal with it. Yeah, that seems pretty good. It's also, sorry, it's also when it's banished, not banished in a challenge. So if they ever just like kill it too. Yeah, I like this a lot. This is actually looking more like a C plus. Again, not a B, but a C plus definitely. Next up, we got Pride Lands. 2 cost uninkable location, 7 willpower. It's got 1 quest counter on it, and it's got 2 in for the move cost. Characters get 2 willpower while here, and if you have a prince or a king character here, so there's the prince or king clause there. And you can pay 1 less to play characters. Just all your characters cost 1 less while here. But this is quite a build around. You want to be using locations. You want to have a lot of princes and kings. I wonder if I would imagine. I guess Simba is a prince. Simba bodyguard is a prince. So, if that's the case, cool. Then you do have some natural synergy here. So, yeah, this is probably still a C plus. It's pretty high, but the baseline of just here's this 2 cost, location is going to get you some quest value over the course of the game, and just naturally do the thing. Yeah, cool. All right, this is a card I'm very excited for. This is the Bare Necessities 2 cost action song. It says chosen opponent reveals their hand and you discard a non-character card of your choice. So good. So think back to the Ursula and Emerald that we saw, the uncommon, right, that snatches a song. This is the same thing. It doesn't put a body on the board, but this can be sung. You can use your Simba bodyguard to sing it out. You can just play it. And you can play it the turn before your opponent is going to play a crucial song or a disruptive card. I'm thinking of things like grab your sword, be prepared, right? Just snipe them out of your opponent's hand, and just getting some information, right? Getting to look at your opponent's hand is also nothing to minimize here. Getting that information is also super relevant. Coming from Magic, cards like Thoughtseize, Duress, Inquisition of Kozilek, all of these cards, Magic players will recognize this effect as a really powerful effect, and I think a lot of the people that come from Magic are looking at this card and are very excited to see this. I think this is a solid B. I think this is one of the cards that people are going to immediately start slotting into their decks if they're able to. There's still decks that are limited on the amount of actions that they can run, like the Mufasa decks. Probably can't run this still, but still very strong card for Amber. All right, here we go. Here's the Pluto Determined Defender, the a Floodborn Pluto, 7 cost, 3/8/2, shift 5, and bodyguard. And at the start of your turn, remove up to 3 damage from this character. So a lot of things going for this card. If you're able to shift it out over top of the cheaper Pluto, you feel really good. You get to quest for 2, and then you have this 3/8 bodyguard protecting you. And if your opponent can't effectively deal with it, right, if they only are able to damage it a little bit, the damage gets removed. They pretty much have to try and one-shot this card, which is going to be hard given that it's a 3/8. This is looking like probably a B minus, maybe a C plus, because again, it's not a slam dunk, but it is certainly a very powerful card if the right conditions are met. So yeah, I think this card's good because the Pluto, the 1 cost Pluto, the Mana Dork is good, and I think this card will just be put alongside it as just, hey, I can sometimes just do this and it'll be good. So, but yeah, I definitely think this and the tiny Pluto will see play. Next up, we got Lucky, cute Doge, 15th puppy, 4 cost, 2/3/1. It is uninkable of note. and you can exert it to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck. You may put each character with cost 2 or less into your hand, rest at the bottom. So just looking at that card, it's really nice. Getting to just get some extra characters. Presumably, you're playing a deck that has a lot of 2 or less cost cards. And then it also says, when this quest, if you have 4 or more characters in play, your other characters get +1 lore this turn. So obviously that clause of if you have 4 or more characters, other characters, you don't really care about, because you're gonna build a deck that is able to do that and just spam a bunch of low cost cards. Um, and you quest with this, and you quest for at least 8, right, with the rest. So cool. That being said, the card is a little awkward, as it is not a card that works with itself, as in it is not a 2 or less card cost itself. So if you have 4 of these in your deck, there's a possibility that you reveal a lucky in your top 3, and you get 1 less card. That being said, it's probably still good, but it's only, again, it's kind of a spicy card. I'm gonna give it a C. I think it can be built around, it can be good, but again, I don't think it's going to. It certainly has a very flashy effect, but I don't think this card is going to do the puppy love effect as often as you think. And in those games, we're gonna win the game anyways. All right, next up we've got Bernard. Brand new agent. 4 cost 1/5/2. At the end of your turn, if this character is exerted, you can ready another chosen character of yours. All right, cool. So, it quests, it's kind of got the bodyguard effect, as in it protects something else, and then probably dies, but it's fine. It's a C plus. Again, it's not a B, but it's a good card. I'm sure someone will find a usage for it, or just use it and protect their cards. Next up, we've got Heart of Atlantis. I describe this as the Super Lantern. 4 cost item, uninkable, Heart of Atlantis. You can exert it and pay 2 less for the next character you play this turn. I think this is way worse than Lantern. Right? I think Lantern is way better, and even that card still has some bad draws. So yeah, I think this is a D. I don't really see a usage for this card. I don't see a reason why you would play this over Lantern. Unless you're playing like super, super, super expensive cards, which, if that's the case, you also are now slowing yourself down by paying for an item that does nothing. I guess if you could play this and then immediately play something, it's okay, but yeah, I don't think this card is very good. All right, that's it for the Amber Rares. Let's move on to Amethyst. All right, next we've got the Amethyst Rares here. We've got Treasure Guardian, 4 cost uninkable, 6/6/2. Interesting, but it can't challenge or quest unless it's at a location. Yikes. That is quite a steep cost. Again, it depends how much locations are good, but I guess if you have a 3 cost location that you can get out, you get this out on turn 4, and the next turn you start questing with it, assuming your location hasn't died. I don't know. I think it's just not worth it. I think this is a D. I think it's, you can make it work, but it's not going to be very good. But again, I do like the design. I like that, it is again, there's a lot of these overstated cards that take some little bit of synergy or a little bit of work to make good, or to make them work. But yeah, not a fan of that one. So we got Lamp. This card's really interesting. 2 cost uninkable item. You can banish it, and if you have a character named Jafar in play, you draw 2 cards. And if you have a character named Genie in play, you return chosen character with 4 less to their player's hand. So first of all, it does nothing if you have no characters, which is not great. But if you have a Jafar, you just get to draw, banish it to draw 2. So 2 cost, draw 2. Right, and keep in mind there's the 3 cost Jafar, right, that we saw earlier. There's also plenty of other Jafars in the game that are cheap and playable. So that's pretty cool. And then also we know that there's a couple of Genies, a couple in Amethyst, and just in the other colors as well that are good. So that's, getting the effect out of that is also nice, getting a little bounce effect. But if you somehow manage to get both of these effects off is just such a powerful play. I really want to just like try and make this work. It probably is more like a D. Again, here I am talking about how cards that are highly specific and otherwise have minor effects aren't good. But I really want to make this card work. I think this is pretty interesting. But yeah, probably more like a C minus D. Um, but it is cool. It is very cool. All right, next up, we've got the important Titan here in Stratos. Tornado Titan, 5 cost, 4/4 evasive, which is nice, and it can exert to gain lore equal to the number of Titans you got in play. Wow. So kind of the finisher for the Titan deck, but again, all the Titans that we've seen have been large, right? Pretty high cost in cost. High, pretty high in cost. Oh man, been recording for like over an hour at this point, right? So cut me some slack. But man, that if you ever get this going, it's gonna be really good. The evasive, right? It's hard to deal with. You gotta actually use a card on this or have an evasive character that can challenge it. So yeah, it's probably a C plus. I'm excited to see if the Titan deck is a thing. I like again the tribal or the kind of subtype matters support, the pirates, the villains, the Titans. I hope all of it is successful because I think it would be more interesting than just here's all the best cards in these colors. Play them. All right, here we've got Rafiki. 1 cost, 0/2. 1. Mystical Fighter he is. Looking spiffy as all heck. Mentor Sorcerer. It's got Challenger 3, which I think is one of the... I think there's like a Simba card from like Chapter 1 or something that has like Challenger 4 or 5, but this is quite a beating. And also, whenever he challenges a hyena character, takes no damage from the challenge. Man, he is out there to get them hyenas. But looking at it, besides that, this is just a Captain Hook, right? But in Amethyst, which is probably pretty good. It's probably we see some play. It's a C plus again, not a B, but it's it's a very good card, and we'll probably see some play. And it's gonna do a beating. And man, he's out for blood. He is out for blood. All right, next up we've got the Queen's Castle. I have a lot to say about this card. I was talking about it with my friends. 4 cost location, 7 willpower, 2 lore counters there, and 1 to move. And at the start of your turn, for each character you got here, you can draw a card. A lot of people being like so excited to draw a bunch of cards with this. I think it's kind of a dream scenario. I think I refer to it as like a win more card, right? It's kind of only good while you're ahead. But my friends explained to me, hey, like, you can always just ink it if you're behind and play something else. Also, even if you don't have stuff on board, it's just gaining you 2 lore. So yeah, after all of that, it's probably more like a C plus, maybe a B minus. I don't want to say it's a B because again, I think it's only good because it's inkable, it's flexible, and you kind of don't have to commit that hard into it. You can kind of just do it whenever you want, and that could be kind of interesting. So yeah, we'll see. Also, again, if you have stuff out and you play this, and you put one of your characters here, your opponent's gonna have trouble dealing with everything. So yeah, it could be pretty good. So yeah, it's probably a C plus, B minus, somewhere in that range. I think it'll be good. Next up, we've got Ursula Sea Witch, 3 cost uninkable, 3/3/1. Whenever this character requests, chosen opposing character can't ready at the start of their next turn. So that's pretty good, right? You can just lock down a character for a turn. Obviously, if you can continue doing that, it'll be really powerful, but your opponent's probably going to end up dealing with it. But that seems okay, right? I think this card has legs. Yeah. I don't think it's a crazy card. It's probably just a C plus or C. Solid C, maybe, being uninkable, but it's cool. Next up, Bosses on a Roll. It's a 3 cost action song. So 3 cost action is not something to scoff at. Again, we saw a bunch of cards that have Singer 3 or Singer 4, that maybe didn't have as much good stuff to quest or sorry, to sing out. This might be one of those things. Let's see what it does. Look at the top 5 cards, put them on top or bottom in any order. Put them on top or the bottom of your deck in any order and gain 1 lore. So I'm assuming that the way this card is meant to be played is you can put any on top or on the bottom. You don't have to put all on top or all on bottom. I'm assuming that's how it goes. Little unclear. I don't really like, again, the way that they kind of phrase some of their cards, but even just gaining 1 lore off of this card is cool. So you at least feel like you're doing something. So cool. This is a fine card. Again, it doesn't draw you a card, but it's still probably worth a card when you count the card filtering and the lore gain. So yeah, I'll put it as a C. It's a perfectly fine card. Except we've got the Sorcerer's Hat, 2-cost item. Can exert it and pay 1. Name a card, reveal the top card of your deck. If it is the name card, you put it into your hand. Otherwise, put it on top of your deck. A lot of people, thinking of ways to use this card. Obviously, as you see with the previous card, you can use it in tandem with cards like that to make it work. Obviously, if you can enable things like it, it'll be pretty powerful just to draw a bunch of cards. But you kind of have to be playing a certain number of effects like this in order to make your deck work, or to make this card work. Because otherwise, activating this card and missing on it is just terrible. So I think I'll give it a C. Again, it's probably going to end up being fine. You'll probably be able to play it and draw some cards, but generally speaking, we found that the artifacts, right, that are drawing a bunch of cards have kind of fallen out of favor. I haven't seen them played as much. We just have better things to be doing with the Merlin cards and with Maleficence and things. So I don't really see that taking off, but maybe this card can bring items back to Amethyst and see how that goes. All right, I think that's it for Amethyst. Let's move on to Emerald. All right, first up for Emerald Rares, we've got Starlight Vial, 4-cost item. And exert it to pay 2 less for the next action you play this turn, and you can pay 2, banish it, draw 2, then choose and discard a card. Man, I am really taking on this card, but I don't like it. They tried so hard where they tried to make it so that you can cash it in for a little bit of card filtering or card advantage if you're not using it, but I really don't like this card. Yeah, I feel like if you're paying 4 for an item, you can probably pay a certain amount for an action as well. I don't know. I just don't see a world in which this card is that good. Yeah, I think this is a D, probably an F. I think this is just the card that you probably just shouldn't play. Next up, we got Helga Sinclair, Vengeful Partner. 2-cost, 2/1 villain. Quest for 1. Whenever this is challenged and banished, you banish the challenging character, so a little bit of a Cheshire Cat action, right? It's fine. It's a C. I'll probably make some decks. A lot of people very excited for this. So we've got Cursed Merfolk, 1-cost uninkable 0/1, quest for 2. When this character is challenged, opponent chooses and discards a card. So very similar to Flynn Rider, right? But it's a 1-drop. So kind of Emerald was kind of missing a 1-drop that they really wanted to play for a while. Here you go. Interesting that in multiplayer, if your opponent challenges this, all your opponents have to discard, which is kind of wild. Anyways, yeah, this card's pretty good. I think this is actually a B, as it, again, is an active reason to play Emerald. It's just, this into Flynn Rider is just such a powerful start, and I think that'll be very good. All right, more fun. Oh god, we got to talk about this card. All right, a lot of people are freaking out about this card and think it's better than it actually is. I'm not gonna give my spiel, but anyways, 2-cost, 2/1/1. And it's got the ability Mimicry, so you can play any character with shift on top of it as if it had any name, so it could be treated as the shift target of any card. So a lot of people freaking out about that this is going to be so good. They're going to play a bunch of shift cards and make it work. I don't really find this card to be that good. I think a lot of the cards that you're shifting already are either already have good shift targets and you're already playing a bunch of copies of those and you're pretty happy to, and also you're kind of fine playing the shift card as is and not playing the other half, or not feeling the need to shift the card. In fact, many of the meta relevant cards, actually some of them don't have shift targets at all, or don't even really play that many shift targets. So, for example, Big Tinkerbell, there's some decks that are just not playing the smaller one, the Tiny Tactician or whatever. They're not playing that card. They're just playing normal Tinkerbell. The Beast Tragic Hero does not have a good shift target. All of the beasts in the game have cost 4 or greater, so there's not really an effective shift target for that card. Yeah. That being said, now Beast does have a potential target, so Steel Emerald can go more fun into Beast Tragic Hero, but again, I don't really think that's that good. And again, that requires you to have this on turn 2, have this live, and for you to have exactly Beast Tragic Hero the turn after. So yeah, I'm not super impressed with Morphon. Again, that might change as the game progresses and maybe more shift cards get printed. It gets more and more better targets, and all of a sudden you have a deck where you can play this, a couple of the shift targets of some key cards, some key Floodborn cards, and all of a sudden, bam, you got a deck going. But until that happens, until I see it, I think this card's a D. I think it's gonna be, I think it's very overhyped, personally. So come at me in the comments if you like the card, but yeah, I don't think this card is very good. All right, next up we've got Fang River City. 4 cost location, 6 willpower, 2 quest symbols there, 2 to move, and it says characters gain a ward and evasive while here. Wow. So really powerful effect, not the highest willpower, and a little bit of a steep move cost there, but if you can get characters here, it's going to be good. I think I'm just going to leave it at a C. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, you put something here and it's pretty good, right? It's pretty hard to deal with. You have to have an evasive thing that can challenge it, because otherwise removal doesn't get it and your normal characters can't challenge it without evasive. So cool. Okay. Oh, they've got, oh, let's see, we've got Stitch, Covert Agent here. Again, the text there is a little covered. But we've got 5 cost 3/3/1. It's got evasive, and while this at a location, it's got ward. Okay, cool. So right there, kind of makes the other location irrelevant because it gains the same keywords. But you can still use this at other locations. It can work pretty well there. Next one we've got Peter Pan. Oh, sorry. Let me give this a grade. Sorry, forgot to give this a grade. I know it only costs for 1 as well, right? Yeah, it's just a C. Oh no, it costs for 2. Oh, sorry. It's still a C, maybe more like a C plus, but yeah, it's fine. 3/3 stat line also is kind of weird. It also doesn't always have word, right? But always having evasive, I guess, is pretty good. Yeah, it's probably a C. It's a good card. Don't get me wrong. It's a good card, but yeah, nothing crazy. All right, next up we've got one of the main location payouts that we've seen from the set. We've got Peter Pan, Lost Boy Leader, 4 cost 3/3/1. And once per turn, when this moves to a location, you gain lore equal to that location's lore count. I want to like it. It certainly can be good. And also we're counting that it still gets the effects. I guess if we're looking at this with Fang River City, it is pretty good. Because it gets the evasive, it gets the 2 lore, it gets the evasive, but in order to really make this card work, you have to have multiple locations. So this really has to be making the locations, this deck needs to be going hard into locations to really make this work. So we'll see. My guess is, again, it's just going to end up like a C. It'll be good, potentially. It'll maybe do some things, but I don't know. I really need to see how locations play out before evaluating a lot of these cards. All right, and then here's the big boy. We got Robin Hood Daydreamer, 6 cost for. Oh, sorry. Did I say C? Yeah, I said C. Sorry. Forgetting if I'm giving them these grades. I'm moving on too fast. Got Robin Hood here, 6 cost 4/5/4. I don't know how many times I say four, because again, this is very rare to see four lore counters on a card like this. Wow. So no keywords, no text line, no nothing. But man, you just play this out, and then if it doesn't die, you just get to quest for four. If it gets to quest more than once, you also can put it at, like your river city, your Fang River City, and man, this is looking like it's still a C. It's a C. Usually, I would give this card like a D, right, or a C, or I guess a C plus. Usually, I would give this like a low C, right? But I think this card's gonna do something, right? It's gotta, right? It's got four lower counters there. I guess there is the what's it, the witch or whatever, the one of the cards that like discards and gains quests, or sorry, gains lore equal to the lore value. So that should be cool. Cool. Yeah, I really like a couple of these cards. I like Robin Hood. I like the Merfolk. So I think I'm going to like Fang, because again, that location effect is pretty good. So awesome. Let's move on to Sapphire. All right. So we've got a couple of Sapphire rares here. This is a really interesting one, and Heart of Tefiti. 3 cost item. You can exert and pay 2 to put the top card of your deck into your inkwell, face down, and exert it. So very similar function to Fishbone Quill, but this one costs some ink to use. So, Fishbone Quill costs you a card in your hand. This is just a card off the top of your deck. So it's not really clear which one you want to use. My guess is Fishbone Quill is probably still better. The ability to play it and ink with it immediately is very powerful. So, yeah, I think until something happens to Fishbone Quill, if anything, this card's not really going to shine that much. Just kind of costs a little bit too much to use. But maybe for decks that don't have as much card advantage engine built into it, this card might do something. It's a fine card, right? For decks that want to ramp, it's fine. I give it a C. It's a good card. It just might not have a home right now. Next up, we got Mama Odie. 3 cost 1/3/1. Whenever you play a song, you can put the top card of your deck into your inkwell, face down, and exert it. Cool. A little bit of like a weird card, because it doesn't get you any songs itself and doesn't really do anything, but it can sit out and give you a lot of advantage potentially. Like you play this the turn before you play Let It Go, and that's a nice little ramp play. So yeah, cool. It's probably fine. Let's see. Oh, next up we've got Giro Gearloose. 3 cost 1/4. Sorry, 1/1, and you can exert it to put an item card from your discard pile on top of your deck. Um, I'm not the most impressed with this. Again, the recursion is nice. The ability to get a card back from your discard pile is nice, but this doesn't actually draw you a card. It doesn't actually give you any advantage. It just sets you up for the next turn. Obviously, if you can draw the card that turn, it's kind of cool. But the draw the card that kind of turn it's kind of cool. But generally, this card's pretty slow. I think I'm going to give it like a C minus, maybe even a D. I think it's just pretty meh. Yeah, it might be a D. Next up, we got Bell's House. This is another 1 cost song. Awesome. Okay. Or sorry, 1 cost location, not song. 1 cost location doesn't. Oh, but it doesn't have any lore counters here. So 6 willpower, 2 to move, and if you have a character here, you pay 1 less to play items. So kind of similar to the Pride Rock card there, but for items. So yeah, again, if the location mechanic works out and there's a item deck, I don't know. Once again, it kind of runs into that same issue that some of the other cards are having, where you're playing this, you need to have the perfect threshold of this card, characters, and items. And man, that just sounds like such a high bar. But we'll see. I think it's a C minus. Probably it might even end up being more like a D, because I feel like we just have easier things to do. Next up, we got Friend Like Me, 5 cost song, or sorry, action song. Each player puts the top 3 cards of their deck into their inkwell, face down, and exerted. It's a wild card, especially for multiplayer. Um, you can imagine that you might be able to use this card more, use the extra ink that you get from this card more than your opponent. But generally speaking, these types of symmetrical effects aren't very good. I think this is looking like an F. I think this card is pretty bad, and I really don't see it doing much. It's a fun card for multiplayer, but I don't really see it doing anything here. Next up, we've got Audrey Ramirez. 5 cost 2/5/2 ward, and whenever this quest, you ready one of your items. It's an interesting design. It could potentially do something with. There's the legendary Lucky Dime that it can do some powerful things with. There's some other powerful items in the game that exert to do things. So yeah, I could certainly see this doing something. It's probably a C, maybe a C minus. It quests over 2 and it has ward, which is nice, but I'm not sure exactly how this card's going to play out. I don't know. Next up, we've got Aurelian Gyro Sensor. 2 cost item. Whenever one of your character's quests, you look at the top card of your deck, put it either on top or the bottom of your library, and this is an F. I think this is a very clear F. I think this card is absolutely doing nothing. It does not draw you a card. It just kind of lets you look at the top card over and over, and you have to quest with your characters, and yeah, it just seems terrible. All right, and last on our array list for Sapphire here, we've got Huey, the last of the Dewey and Louie trio here. 2 cost 2/2/1. It's got support. I think all of them had support, right? So I guess that's kind of interesting. Very supportive group of younglings here. Whenever this character quests, if you have characters named Dewey and Louie in play, you may draw 3 cards. So, it's a cool little gimmick, but it requires you to have the other 2, and it was 3, right, and 4, right? So you need to play this on 2, play the other one on 3, and have exactly the 4 cost on turn 4. Quest, you get a little bit of draw, and then it just dies, and that's if, again, everything goes to plan. Obviously, whatever works out, it's pretty powerful, but yeah, I think all these ended up being like Ds. I think this is a D as well, maybe a D plus. Again, if they all work together, it's like cool. If you want to try this out, I don't falter you, but yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty underwhelming. Again, you have to have exactly the nuts right in order for this to work, and even the end result isn't that good. So. Yeah, pretty unimpressed with that. Again, C, D plus maybe for Huey in particular. 2 cost 2/2/1 with support is not bad, but otherwise, yeah, I'm not really impressed with that package. All right, that is it for the rares. Some interesting things, but generally the rares tend to be a little bit more lower powered. Now let's get to some of the powerful super rares and legendaries. All right, here we are for the super rares. Things will be getting a little bit more higher on the power scale here. We've got Madame Medusa, 6 cost uninkable 4/4/1. When you play this character, banish chosen opposing character with 3 power or less. People are relating this a lot, or rightfully so, comparing this to Lady Tremaine from Chapter 2. And yeah, people are pretty underwhelmed. It's kind of confusing why they would release a card like this after releasing Lady Tremaine. Lady Tremaine is just better in a couple of ways. Obviously, the additional quest value here is really important. Playing a 6 cost card, that doesn't quest for 2 can often feel very slow. And only getting to kill small things can be a little bit of a problem. Most of the time, Ruby has the tools to make sure that Lady Tremaine is often hitting something good. That being said, again, if the meta evolves, this card still can be good. This card also has an additional point of power. So yeah, there are situations where this card would be better. There's situations where Lady Tremaine is obviously better. Again, I think in general, Lady Tremaine is better. But again, if there's a deck that can run both of these, maybe you could do that. Maybe you split them. Who knows? That being said, it's a pretty solid card. I think it's a B. I think it is a good card. I think it should see played a lot of decks. I think the problem is, again, just a Lady Tremaine looming over this card, being like, what you gonna do? So I think the card itself is powerful. I think whether it sees play is just a dependency on how people compare it to Lady Tremaine. All right, next up we've got Ariel, Adventurous Collector, 3 cost 2/3/1. Hero Princess has got Evasive, and whenever you play a song, another one of your characters also gains Evasive until the start of your next turn. So right away you can see, we saw the Simba right earlier, the Ruby Simba, the kind of Pinocchio, right? The quest for three card, and people kind of wondering, okay, how is the card like that going to work? You kind of want bodyguards, you kind of want a way to keep your guys safe. This could be a way to do that, right? You kind of play this card, and then assuming your Simba is still alive, you can sing some songs or you can do something and give your guys evasive. The fact that it's until the start of your next turn is pretty cool, and I'm very interested to see what people do with this card. I think it's still just to see though. The power level is a little bit underwhelming. 3 cost 2/3 is not really that great. And besides having evasive, there's nothing stopping your opponent from just smashing it, killing it, and or just leaving it alone because they don't really care. Quest for one, and unless you have other things, it doesn't really do that much by itself. So yeah, just to see. But again, it's still a fine card, and I'm actually really excited to see if there's a way that this card kind of makes its way into the meta, and again, maybe a more aggressive, less interactive Ruby deck emerges. That's my hope. Next up, we've got Prince Eric Expert Helmsman. 4 cost 2/2. Okay, 2/2/2. Quest for 2, which is a really important clause here. It's got surprise maneuver. When this character is banished, you may banish chosen character. So that's really good because you saw the Cheshire Cat, or those types of effects where if their thing dies, I guess that really wouldn't happen with Cheshire Cat, but right, if the scenario is something trades with Prince Eric, right, now you just get a free 2-for-1 where you kill the thing that challenged it and you get to kill something else. But also, again, oftentimes the thing that they're going to use to challenge this isn't that good, and so it's going to mean that they have to be very wary of what they banish, or when or how they choose to banish this card. So. And of note, again, it's not in a challenge. This is just if it's banished. So that seems really good. I think this is probably closer to a B minus. It's uninkable. It's a little bit weak in terms of its power. You're not going to be using this to fight. So again, it probably is going to have to be in a more aggressively slanted Ruby deck. But I mean, if there is, this card's going to be great in it, and I think you're just going to be fine to just play this card on its own and start questing with it. Your opponent's going to have to deal with it. Yeah. All right, for our super steel super rares, or super steel rares here, we've got Simba Fighting Prince, 7 cost 5/7/2. And every time you play this character, or when he banishes another character in a challenge, during your turn, importantly, you get to choose either to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards, or to deal 2 damage to a chosen character. So you kind of have either some card filtering or a very similar effect to Tinkerbell, but this is on a card that can't shift. It's fairly expensive. It has nothing really protecting it. Yeah, this is a really weird super rare. I'm kind of underwhelmed. I guess when it also just does the thing when it's played, so you're guaranteed to get some either most likely 2 damage out of it. You come down, you deal 2 damage something, you probably kill something. So yeah, yeah, I think it's just gonna end up being a C for me. It's pretty underwhelming. It's very expensive, and it kind of doesn't do enough for its cost. It's not bad. It's just kind of, I feel like this card should cost less. I'm kind of confused why it costs so much. Just maybe reduce the stats a little bit, like maybe a 6 cost 5/6. That would have maybe been a little better. Anyways, next we've got Little John, Resourceful Outlaw, 6 cost 4/5. Oh, this is another shift card. And 4/5/2. While this character is exerted, your characters with Bodyguard gain resist 2 and get +1 lore. Very interesting. So presumably you play a bunch of bodyguards. You play a 2-cost bodyguard, a 3-cost bodyguard. I wonder if there is a Little John bodyguard. If that's the case, it might be pretty good. Let me look. So yeah, as I have seen, or if we remembered, there was this card, Little John Robin's Companion, which does have Bodyguard, has that extra text. So that's some natural synergy if you're playing this card. You're probably going to be playing a couple of copies of that card anyways. So yeah, this looks like a C plus to me. I think this card seems fine to shift out, and also just kind of fine to play. And then you have a couple of bodyguards on the field, and they get protected. This is questing for two. It seems kind of cool. I don't know if it's good, but it seems cool. Next up, we got the Sheriff of Nottingham. 4 cost 2/4/1. That's a villain, and whenever you discard a card, you can deal 1 damage to a opposing character. Um, so yeah, people I think we're trying to figure this out with like Whole New World and do some interesting things. If you play it and you discard some cards in your hand, you get to kill off some of your opponent's board before they get a bunch more cards. I guess you could use this in tandem with Simba and use the looting effect to deal some damage. Although at that point, why not just have Simba deal damage? I think this card's a little too cute. I think I don't know of enough effects in this game that really do this well. I guess like Tinkerbell, Tiny Tactician also does the thing. So I'm sure there's a way to make this card work, but yeah, I think it's just a C. It's fine. All right, and those are the only yeah. So the amount I'm just like still coming to terms with the fact that there's so few super rares in each color and legendaries. So these should go pretty quick. All right, moving on to Ember. All right, we've got Big Boy here in Chernobog. As a Kingdom Hearts fan, I'm very happy to see a card like see a Chernobog card being a very boss that I remember from the game. So one step closer to Kingdom Hearts cards. Of course, I'm joking. But yeah, 10 cost uninkable, 993, so huge. But it's got this extra piece of text here for each character card in your discard. You pay 1 less for this character. And then when you play this character, you shuffle all the cards from your character cards from your discard pile into your deck. So this is just like such a powerful late game card. You play it for super cheap. You only need like again a couple. You have like 5 characters in your discard. You just get to play this for 5, shuffle a bunch of cards back into your deck, and bam, you got a 9/9 that quests for 3. It's just kind of a card that's fine by itself. This kind of seems like it would be a B. It's not an A. It could be a B minus or a C plus. I just think it's going to be so easy to just put this card into a deck and have it work. Amber is just so used to just jamming jamming characters into their deck and just going to town. And this card rewards you for that. So yeah, I think a B plus, or sorry, a B minus, C plus for this card. Again, it can still have those awkward draws. You really have to be playing only characters. I guess also the Mufasa deck that exists can also make this card work, but yeah, I think this card's going to be you're going to see this card on the field, and you're going to be scared of it. All right, next up we've got Pongo Determined Father, 3 cost, 3/2/1, and once per turn you can pay 2 to reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a character card, you put it into your hand. Otherwise, you put it on the bottom of your deck. I'm pretty not impressed with this card. It's super rare, so I'm inclined to think that it's like I would usually be inclined to think that it's good, but I really just don't see this card doing much. You play it on 3, I assume, and it's pretty vulnerable. It can just die to again a grab your sword, or grab your sword. It can die to fire the cannons. It can die to smash. It can die to a whole bunch of different things. And again, you're now probably not questing with it. It's just a body on the field because you're paying 2 to just draw a card most of the time. And this has to be in a deck, again, with mostly character cards. I just don't see it. It seems just like a C. Like maybe some decks could use it. I know people are like trying to make it work. Like again, people are excited to do the Dalmatian thing, but yeah, I don't think this card is very good. I don't think it's going to see the type of play that you would expect a super rare to see. So yeah, probably just a C, maybe a C minus. Yeah. Next up, we got. Oh, I didn't realize this is a super rare. Oh wow, we got Piglet Pooh Pirate Captain, 2 cost 2/2/1, Dreamborn Hero Pirate Captain. So you got a bunch of the clauses there, like the Pirate Captain. Both of those types are relevant. And while you have 2 or more characters in play, this gets 2 lore, 2 additional lore. So wow, you just play a 1-drop, you play this, and you just need to play a 1 more thing, and this quests for 3. I mean, this just seems great. Again, the Amber decks are already set out to just spam characters, just spam them, spam them, spam them. You play this on turn. You play this on turn 2. On turn 3, you play a Simba Bodyguard plus any other any 1-cost character, and you're off to the races, right? Your opponent's gonna have a hard time dealing with that unless they have a direct way of dealing with Piglet or enough board presence to get rid of both. So, yeah, I think this card is a B. I think this card's a B. I think this is going to be a pretty powerful card, if you can make it work. Obviously, in the situations where you only have this, it's pretty unfortunate, but in those nut draws, it's gonna feel pretty powerful. So I think you should try and make this work. I think it might be more like a B minus, but I think people will fiddle around with this card, and I think they're gonna find that it's pretty good. Here we are for our Amethyst super rares. Here we've got Alice T. Alchemist, 6 cost 4/4/2. Can exert it to exert an opposing character and all opposing characters with the same name. This is very, very interesting. We haven't really seen a ton of reasons to not play a bunch of characters with the same name. This might be one of them. Again, I don't know if that's actually going to shake things up. Exerting this is a pretty heavy cost. You're losing out on 2 lore, but assuming you're able to challenge a bunch of things with it, with your characters afterwards, it should be worth it, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. So yeah, my inclination is probably just C, maybe even like C minus. I just don't see how playing this card and using it to exert a couple of 1 or 2 characters on your opponent's board really helps you unless you're kind of already in a decent position. Playing this while you're on the back foot seems pretty lackluster. Next up is a super interesting card design. I really like this card in terms of its design, not its power level. We've got Genie, Supportive Friend, 4 cost, uninkable, 3/5/1. And when this character quests, you can shuffle this card into your deck to draw 3 cards. So, you kind of just use it as a slow draw 3, kind of like a Friends on the Other Side that you pay in advance for. But also you can use it to challenge some things, right? If your opponent's got a bunch of weak excuse me, characters in play, you could challenge something, maybe have it take some damage, hope it survives, and if it does, you get 3 cards. If not, okay. You haven't really lost out on too much. And then also, it just curving well into the legendary Jafar, which we'll get to, I think is going to be pretty interesting. But yeah, I'm excited to see what this card does. If anything, I think it's just a C. Again, it's not insane, but I like the design of it, and I think it's pretty cool. All right, now I got the big Magicka Dispel, the 7-cost uninkable 4/6 Floodborn Villain Sorcerer. It's got Shift for 5. I forget how much there was, like a Magicka Dispel for 2, right? And there was another one for 4. So both of those fit nicely into this. And whenever this character quests, you don't get any lore from it normally, but you gain lore equal to the cost of 1 of your items in play. So this is designed to work really, really well with the Lucky Dime. In fact, it even mentions it here in the flavor text of the card. The Precious Dime of Scrooge. There's a Lucky Dime. It's a sapphire item. So again, intended to be played in Sapphire Amethyst, which isn't a color pairing that we really see often. So hopefully we see, again, this emerge and encourage people to try out the color pairing. So that's pretty cool. I really like that we're trying to do that. And if that's the case, this quests for 7. Of course, this requires you to have both Magicka Dispel and Lucky Dime, which are both 7-cost cards. They're both uninkable. They're both very expensive. So this is kind of just like a dream scenario, but if someone ever gets it off, it could be powerful. Otherwise, if you have just like even just like a fishbone quill or anything like that. The sorcerer's hat, right? You know, the two. This card will quest for a fine amount. Two, three, four, all seem like perfectly reasonable things for this card to quest for. So if you can do that, awesome. But yeah, besides that, I don't know if this card is particularly insane. Again, besides that dream scenario. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna give it a C. Again, maybe I'm undervaluing the ability to just like quest, come down and quest for a decent amount immediately, and then next turn you play the dime and you just have the nuts. That's certainly a possibility. So we'll see what happens, but I'm leaving it at a C for now. All right, I think that was all of our Amethyst super rares. All right, talking about our Emerald super rares here, we've got Helga Sinclair. Is the a card that we saw earlier. It was the rare, right? Like banished when it was challenged, right? So this is the 5-cost uninkable 4/4/2. It's got shift for 3, which is nice. So again, it works well with the other Helgas, I believe. I think there's another one also that's like a 1-cost. I don't remember. But works well at least with the rare one. And whenever this character quests, you may deal 3 damage to chosen damage character. If you're already kind of damaging things, Emerald just kind of has this theme of damaging, of being able to deal damage to damaged characters. Continuing with that theme, and this seems fine, right? If your opponent has any damage on their stuff, you just get to finish things off, and they're also incentivized probably to challenge this. If they can't, so then they know, okay, I got to actually kill it, because if they don't actually finish it off, right, you'll be able to quest back and deal damage potentially. Yeah, I mean, this is just the C. It's a good card. Again, in the decks that are able to shift this out, it's probably going to be good. And it's also kind of just fine to play as is. 5 costs 4/4/2 is not insane, but it's not bad. So cool. Yeah, it's fine. Oh, this is we got Shezzy. This is the I don't think we've seen any other hyenas, have we? I don't think so. I'm thinking of the Rafiki card that we saw earlier. 4-cost 0/6. Quest for 1. And while it's at a location, it has +3 power. Okay, so there we go. So 4-cost 3/6 if it's at a location. And while this is at a location, you can draw 1 card each time you challenge another character. Okay, cool. Seems fine. Again, in the location deck, it's probably good. But outside of it, it's not. And again, we don't really know how well locations are going to work. While it's not at a location, it's pretty vulnerable. You can kill the location and then kill this. Yeah, this is just a C. It's fine. It's not particularly powerful. Like, yes, being able to challenge stuff and draw cards is good. Also, again, if you get any added keywords from the location that you're at or any extra abilities, it's cool. But again, that's it's too much is going right for you there. And yeah, I imagine most of the time it's just kind of fine. And there'll also unfortunately be some times where your opponent destroys the location that you're at, kills this very easily, and you're very, very sad. So yeah, unfortunately that's just the reality with some of these cards. So yeah, C is fine. C is fine. It's a fine card. Next we've got Lyle Tiberius Rourke. 3-cost 2/4/1. When you play this card, an opposing character gains Reckless during their next turn, and whenever one of your other characters is banished, each opponent loses 1 lore. So you kind of bait them into kind of making a bad play, right? You play, something on 2 that is able to kind of deal with one of your opposing character, the opposing characters that's on the board, and you force them to attack into your guy. They lose a lore, and then from that point on, if they banish one of your things, right, they lose 1. So yeah, it just kind of sets them back a little bit. It's not crazy, but this is probably pretty good, right? In this kind of there's been this kind of sub theme of like Emerald giving your opposing characters Reckless, forcing them to attack in. Hopefully, you pair this with a color that has awesome large characters, and you go to town, or your opponent goes to town on you, and they pay the price for it. little joke there. Yeah. I think it's a C. Again, I think you have to do a little bit to make this card work. By itself, it doesn't really do that much, right? You play it and something gets reckless. So I guess at the bare minimum, it prevents something from questing. So yeah, it's fine. C plus. Yeah, it's just fine. Uh, yeah, I'm not really sure how often the secondary clause is going to come up. And also, again, if you quest with this, your opponent's probably going to kill it, so you probably can't quest with it. So yeah, the card is just fine. It's a C. Yeah, not really impressed with these super rares in Emerald, but we'll see. All right, for our Sapphire super rares here, we've got Tinkerbell, very clever fairy. 5 costs, 3, 4, 2. And whenever one of your items is banished, you may put that card into your inkwell face down and exert it. Interesting. I'm just trying to think of, I guess, if there's items that banish themselves. Okay. Oh, I guess with Popsicle. Oh, I just realized that with like Popsicle, you can just use it right away. So you've already gotten the card from it. You put it into your inkwell. You've kind of gotten 2 cards from it. Okay, I kind of like that. If there's like like enough items that kind of banish themselves, it's possible that this card can be pretty good. Okay, I'll give it a C plus. There's definitely things that can work with this card. Cool. I just kind of thought of that. Okay, I kind of like that. And then obviously there's like the other part of like, the minor effect of if your opponent banishes one of your items, you get an added effect. But that's more minor. You should really be putting this in a deck that can banish your own items. Speaking of items, we got Scrooge McDuck. 5 cost, uninkable, but 3/5/1. During your turn, this gets evasive, and during your turn, whenever this banishes another character in a challenge, you get to play an item for free. For free. So this is very clearly a card designed to, again, cheat out the Lucky Dime, which we'll get to. So could potentially work really well. And, just by itself, getting to attack down evasives and play items could be good. I don't know if it's too much of a dream. It's also only a 3/5, but it's probably going to be able to kill some things, right? So yeah, and all you need to do is kill one. Again, in the scenario where you have the Lucky Dime already in hand, you only have to kill one thing, right? It's not like you have to kill a bunch of things, right? You just kill one thing, you get it, and they either kill it or they don't, and you're fine either way. Yeah, cool. Probably just a C plus though. Again, it kind of only works in a particular deck, and it's not really even that insane in that, but it could move up to a B depending on how great the Lucky Dime is. But spoiler alert, I don't think the Lucky Dime is that good either. But anyways, let's move on to Wendy Darling. Authority on Peter Pan. 3 costs, 3/1/2. Okay, some interesting stats there. It's got Ward. Okay, so the 1 willpower there, hopefully not mattering too much, and it's got support. Man, they're just like slapping support on so many things, and it doesn't change the card evaluation for me. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of this card. I don't know why this is a super rare, to be honest. This could have been a rare, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. Maybe they just like needed a certain number of super rares. They obviously need a certain number of super rares, but yeah, I mean, Award is nice. It's probably going to get to West at least once. So yeah, it's not bad. It's just a C. It's just kind of underwhelming for a super rare, but I guess beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, it's fine. C, perfectly fine card. It could make its way into a deck. The ward is nice. The questing for 2 is nice. I just really don't find the support keyword to be that relevant. All right, so that's it for our super rares, I believe. All right, time for the big ones, the legendaries. All right, so here's the big ones for our first of 2. You're right, only 2. Again, I'm still baffled by, again, I just haven't come to terms with the low amount of super rares and legendaries in the set. But first of 2 Ruby Legends, we've got Hydra. Again, another Kingdom Hearts boss coming into Lorcana from the Hercules world. 6 costs, 6/5/2. And whenever this character takes damage, it deals the same amount of damage to a chosen opposing character. It's a very, very, very strong card. So often going to be able to just come down, start questing, or just trade off for 2 things. Yeah, this is again, a lot of these, I imagine these are all going to be A's, or most of them are going to be A's. Yeah, putting this as an A. Again, it's not inkable, but you play this and it is going to demand an answer from your opponent, or it is going to do some serious work. This is also not even counting that it can be healed if you play it with, oh, look at that, another card that works well with Rapunzel gifted with healing. Wow. Guys, I broke Rapunzel. I'm joking. Um, yeah. This card can do that if you heal it, if you bounce it. Oh my god, it can just do so much work. So yeah, awesome. A plus. This card is gonna do some heavy lifting. You better have some removal prepared to deal with this card. All right, next up we've got Jim Hawkins, Space Traveler, 5 cost, 4/4/2. And when you play this character, you may play a location with cost 4 or less for free. Man, they're really just giving us stuff for free in this set. And when you play a location, this character may move there for free. So right there, you just do all the things. You get to play it, you get the body on board, you get a free location, and you get to move there. So whatever traits they might give or whatever benefit you get for getting there, you just have. Yeah, this card is another A. It just is so much advantage. It reminds me very much of Mufasa. It's not the same card advantage as Mufasa, but it is a very similar mana value in terms of, again, playing. If you play a 4-cost location, you're playing 9 cost worth of things for 5. So yeah, locations don't even need to be good for this to be good. You just gotta have this in your hand, have any location, slam it down, slam down your location, bam. Yeah. This is also not even counting, sorry, by the way, sorry. This is not even counting that, again, you put it at the location, maybe they kill the location, this falls off. You can just play another one and move it right back there. It's not even a one-time thing. Yeah, okay, all right. I gotta calm myself down here. This is, again, the definition of an A, where the things it does by itself, just for playing it, is just, and the same thing with the Hydra too, right? This is why I hope people understand the difference between an A and a B, where just a B is good, right? But it'll actively encourage you to play it. This is just going to most likely go in most Ruby decks. Again, at least the ones that are interested in playing or trying out some locations. So yeah, wow, I don't remember. I forget reading this card. We're reading it now, but just like, wow, what a card. What a value card. All right, A's for both of these. Let's see if we keep the train rolling with the Steel Legends. All right, sorry, Steel Legends here. Oh, right, this one. We've got Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, 5 cost, 3/6/2. It's got shift, so there's some, Robin Hoods that can shift this out early. There's the 2-cost one from the other chapters, and there's a bunch of other things that they can do. During your turn, when this character banishes another character in a challenge, you gain 2 lore. So you get to kill something and act as though it quested, which is nice. And when this character is banished in a challenge, you get to draw a card. So awesome! It comes down, you fight something, you get some lore, it dies, and you get a card. I don't know if this is an A, but it's definitely a B. Right, it's way better than a C. I just don't know if it's a slam dunk. It is certainly very good, and the inkable aspect being nice. I think the big thing is that in the decks that are already running some of the Robin Hood cards, this is just going to be thrown into there because it's good. Shift 3 is nice. The fact that it gives you back a card, right? So the shift right mechanic is kind of card disadvantage. You're kind of using one card to play a card for cheap. But this kind of rebuys you for that, so that's always nice. Yeah, this is unfortunate. Like, I'm not saying that it's just, when I compare it to the other 2 legends we just looked at, it's nowhere near as powerful, right? So yeah, this is B plus, but still a very good card. And again, you'll see pretty much all of these. I believe all of these legends do something. Oh boy, sorry. This one I know, because again, people have been freaking out about this one too. We've got Mickey Mouse Trumpeter, 4-cost uninkable, 0/1. You might be like, what? This better do something good. Don't worry, it does. Quest for 1. Doesn't matter, you're not going to be questing with it. And it has the ability to exert itself and pay 2 to play a character for free. Yes, you heard me, for free. Any character, just a character from your hand, slam it onto the battlefield, bam, you got it. This is a kind of a, I don't want to say a ripoff of Magic, but it is kind of verbatim, very similar to a Magic card called Elvish Piper. I think there's been some cards like a Quicksilver Amulet, if you know that one. So there's been a bunch of these cards that cheat characters into play, and a lot of these cards end up being pretty bad. This one seems kind of fine, especially since it's pretty hard to remove this on turn 4. You've got Smash, you've got Fire the Cannons, you've got Dragon's Fire, you've got Lady Tremaine, and some things like that that might be able to get it if it comes down a turn or two late or something like that. But generally speaking, you play this on 4, you'll probably be able to get a character out with it. That being said, you have to have the character ready in your hand to play. So, yeah, but it is a very powerful card if it ends up working. People joking about the big goofy knight card, but the more better things to play this would be like the Dragon Maleficent, right? Obviously, I'm trying to think of like other things that would be really good to play with this Hades, like the blue Hades. You know, just the big splashy characters, right? That have just really powerful play effects, or just like have really good stats or really good effects. You just play them out. You just spam the board. Hopefully, you know, maybe something that protects Mickey Mouse. But yeah, generally speaking, you're going to get one use of this card. You're going to put something big into play. Your opponent's going to freak out. They're going to kill either the thing you played or this, and you know, you'll go from there. But in practice, this card is not as good as people think it is. Just because in the decks where it's good, you kind of have to rely on getting this out and having it live, because otherwise you're stuck with a bunch of high cost cards in hand and you're super sad. So yeah, I think this card is a C minus. Again, I think people are going to try it out. I think it'll do some things, but I don't think this is ever going to be like a super meta relevant card that's going to dominate tournament play or anything like that. But it is cool, and it is kind of funny, again, coming from Magic, to see a card so similar to it. All right, a little bit of a miss here with the Steel Legends, but let's go on to Amber. All right, our 2 legends for Amber are, we got Perdita, Devoted Mother. So we've got the other a parent of the Dalmatian family. 6 cost, uninkable, 1/6/2. Okay, so weak power level, but it quests fine. And when you play this and whenever she quests, you can play a character with cost 2 or less from your discard for free. Wow. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Right, so you play it, you probably have either some of the pups or a maybe a Simba. Simba Bodyguard would probably be the best thing to get with it. That, or like a Lilo or something like that. Maybe you get a Lilo, and then next turn you quest with her, you get a Simba, and you have Simba protecting her with a Lilo as well that quested. So you've gotten 4 lore and a Simba questing just for playing this card by itself. Yeah, I'm down. This is an A. I think this is pretty easy. I think, again, this is going to combine really well with a lot of the other Amber cards that just are cheap costs and just want to be played and want to die and want to be replayed. Yeah, I think it's an easy A. I think it's going to see a lot of play. Not every single Amber deck is going to play it, but the ones that want to quest, they're going to love this card. And then we've got, lastly, for Amber, the Kita, the Shift Kita here. 5 cost, Kita, Protector of Atlantis, 3/5/2, shift for 3, and when you play this character, all characters get a -3 power until the start of your next turn. So a lot of people asking why this gives -3 to all things. Keep in mind that it's only the things currently in play, and also note that it still keeps its effect even if Kita dies or gets removed or bounced or whatever. But the reason why that this is so good is that, again, typically you're going to be playing this in a deck where your sole purpose is to be questing. So, you know, you play out your 1-drop, your 1-drop Kita, you play a 2-cost card, you shift this out, and your opponent is most likely going to be unable to challenge this directly with the characters that they have in play, at least. They don't have anything like a Maui coming up anytime soon, and so you'll probably get a decent amount of value from this card. That being said, I think this card is actually a B, given that it's specific to that kind of deck. Playing it normally is fairly weak. Playing it by itself, right? If you just play it normally, it's pretty underwhelming. You kind of have to ship this card out to make it work, so you're sacrificing a little bit of card quality, or sorry, card advantage, I guess I should say. Yeah, I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be effective at what it does. I just don't think it is this slam dunk card. Again, comparing it to the Ruby Legends that we saw there, those Ruby Legends were so powerful. Perdita is like slam dunk, right? Obviously, like Perdita and Kita could go in the same deck, like that too, right? You could have Kita in your deck as well, and then you quest with Perdita. It's hard to say Kita and Perdita at the same time, right? But you can use Kita to protect Perdita. So that's nothing to discount as well. So, but yeah, I think a B, maybe a B plus for this card. I think it's again very good, just not a slam dunk in every deck. All right, let's move on to Amethyst. All right, for the Amethyst legendaries, we've got Jafar, Striking Illusionist, excuse me. I've been waiting for a shift Jafar. I'm very cool. In Amethyst, I should say. There's a couple of Jafars from the previous chapters that really haven't gotten much use, and maybe they'll get more use with this card. So 7 cost, 4/5/1. Got shift for 5. It's got evasive, which is nice. And during your turn, while this character is exerted, whenever you draw a card, you gain 1 lore. So the thing that Amethyst already does well, whenever you do it, you gain some lore. Obviously, people have been experimenting with this, or kind of have been fantasizing about this and Whole New World. So you shift this out, you immediately use it to sing Whole New World. It's exerted, you resolve the effect of Whole New World, and bam, you got 7 lore right there. So that's obviously a very powerful effect. And then obviously it having evasive means it's probably going to survive the turn. You untap and you draw, you dump out, you exert it, you draw a bunch of things, you drop a bunch of things that draw cards, your Maleficence, your friends on the other side, and things like that. So yeah, just the fact that this is, by the way, this is also just, you can still just run friends on the other side with this and it's totally fine. So yeah, I think this is really good. It's also, by the way, just another evasive card for Amethyst to run. There's been a problem of certain colors not having enough good evasive cards to be able to deal with opposing evasive cards, right? There's been a couple of decks just spamming evasives and being able to just get away with that since, again, some colors don't have the best evasive, aren't playing a lot of evasives. This card just having evasive could be good to just challenge an opposing character, and then after you do that, play a bunch of cards that draw cards, so you don't have to quest with it. It's really interesting that you can attack with this card, you can challenge with it, and still get lore off of it. I really like that. So I know some people might think that I'm going to give this an A. I am going to give it a B plus. Again, I think it's very, very specific in that you need to be playing an Amethyst deck that is trying to gain lore as fast as possible, that's trying to draw cards. I do think it also is probably better in that situation where you use it to sing Whole New World. So yeah, I think it's good. I think there's just some scenarios where it might be a little bit underpowered or awkward. So yeah, just a B plus for this card, but I'm very excited to see what this card does. All right, for our other Amethyst legendary here, we've got Maleficent, Mistress of All Evil. Very scary, spooky name. Cool looking card. 5 cost, 2/3/2. And whenever this character quests, you can draw a card. All right, first of all, stop right there. Awesome. You just quest, you draw cards, bam. It also has this added effect of during your turn, whenever you draw a card, you may move 1 counter from one of your characters, from chosen character to chosen opposing character. So again, moving around damage, so you can take damage from your characters and move them to something else, or you take damage that's kind of spread around the board and move it onto something else. So yeah, I think this is super cool. Also can be potentially good with Whole New World. maybe. But yeah, just the fact that this fuels itself, right? This is again the definition of an A, right? Um, Again, the effect is of the secondary divination effect may seem a little bit minor, but if you ever kill some stuff with that effect, it feels super good. And if you ever heal stuff up with the effect, it also seems super good. But yeah, even just without that, just this card questing and drawing you a card is just so much advantage. And having your opponent being forced to deal with this, again, if left unanswered, this card's just going to dominate. So yeah, easy A here. Both Jafar and Maleficent are going to do a lot of things going forward. So cool Amethyst cards. Really like these cards so much. I'm going to have so much fun with these cards. All right, we got our two Emerald Legends here. We've got Ursula, Deceiver of All, 3 cost 2/3, 1, and a Villain Sorcerer. And whenever this character sings a song, you may play that song again from your discard for free. Again, they keep on giving us stuff for free. And then you put it on the bottom of your deck. Cool. Yeah, it seems really good. Obviously, my thoughts immediately go to a card like Friends on the Other Side. So you play this, the next turn you use to sing Friends, you draw 4 cards, then you put, I'm pretty sure that the song that's put on is the thing that's put on the bottom. If you put this on the bottom, it seems really bad. And a little bit ambiguous because it says then put it on the bottom. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the song. Otherwise, I guess it would say put this character on the bottom. Yeah, so I assume it is the song. But yeah, that you can also do the same thing with Strength of a Raging Fire or Let the Storm Rage On. There's just so many good songs that you can use this with. So yeah, very excited to use this card with some cool songs. Awesome. Next up, we got Milo Thatch, the Floodborn, the Shift guy. 7 cost uninkable, so quite hefty card here, but 4/4/3. So questing for 3 is really nice, and it's got the Shift for 4. And whenever this card is banished, you return all opposing characters to their player's hands. So very, very interesting. So your opponent is going to have a hard time dealing with this without basically bouncing back their entire board. It's also, sorry, when it's banished, not even banished in a challenge. Yeah, it just seems very good if you end up shifting this out. You shift this out early, you start questing with it, and they're not going to want to deal with it. Also, if you shift it out on turn 4, it's honestly not even sure if they can even effectively deal with it. Um, yeah. It's unclear whether the Emerald decks want to jam just this. I don't think they do. And it's unclear the other Milo was just like a 2/3, right? What was the Milo? Oh, it was a yeah. It was a one. It was a goon. So cool. Yeah, I guess probably an A, right? I feel like most Emerald decks are just gonna like jam this combination and keep this guy safe, shift it out, and opponent's gonna have a hard time. Yeah, I think that's an A, just because it's so easy to enable. Again, all you have to do is play this out. You don't even have to play this out early. You can just play this out the turn before you want to shift it, and you're going. You're gaming. Cool, awesome. So for our Sapphire Legendaries, we've got some cool ones here. We've got Grandma Tala, uh, the Floodborn, 7 cost 4/8/2. So again, very good body here on this card. Should be pretty easy for it to survive outside of removal. Shift 5, and whenever a card is put into your inkwell, you gain 1 lore. So this is actually pretty interesting. This actually probably is more like a shift 6 because you're going to want to play this and shift it out and then immediately put a card into your inkwell for the turn so you can immediately gain that lore. But yeah, besides that, this card essentially quests for 3, right? Since you're putting a card into your inkwell every turn, I would imagine. And then you're questing with it. And then if there's ever anything like, again, the fishbone quills, or we saw the artifact, whatever the amulet of Tui or whatever. I'm blanking. I'm blanking on it, but right, if you ever have anything like that going on, whether you're playing your Mickey detectives, right, it seems like it's gonna be pretty good. I don't know if every single Sapphire deck runs this, but I gotta imagine they're gonna try, right? I think this is an A. Like I think this is another A. I think just like it's gonna do the thing most games. It's gonna get you a little bit of lore. It's gonna if your opponent isn't able to answer this when it comes down, it's gonna gain a lot of lore pretty fast, and your opponent's gonna sorry the whoever plays this is gonna be able to you know probably have a deck that puts a bunch of cards into their inkwell, has a bunch of ink, is doing things in addition to right. It doesn't cost any ink to gain the lore. You don't have to do anything to make it work. Right. Again, I'm being like this because I'm trying to communicate why I'm giving this an A as opposed to a B. It just doesn't take any extra effort to make this card work. You play it, you can shift it, or you can play it normally. That's fine too. You play it, you put stuff in your inkwell, you get lore. It's that simple. I think that makes it an A. Anyways, on to the last legendary here. We're on to our last card. Wow, we made it. We did it. We did it. And boom, we've got Lucky Dime to finish it off. The little tens. I just realized the 10 cents in the middle. That's hilarious. I thought it was the orb. It turns out it's just the little dime. Oh my god, that's hilarious. So yes, this is the card that Magica Dispel was referencing. 7 cost uninkable item. You can exert it and pay 2 to choose one of your characters and gain lore equal to their lore value. Now this is really important where any the difference between this card and some of the other cards that reference lore values is that this is referencing their actual lore amount while on the board. So, for example, if you have Bell and you've got 10 cards in your inkwell, you activate this, you target your Bell, it gives you 5. It doesn't give you 1. It doesn't give you the printed value. It gives whatever value that it's worth. Just to clarify this, there's been a bunch of questions about this card and a bunch of these other cards. So same thing goes for Tamatoa, right? So this card works really well in those kinds of decks. Presumably, you'll be able to play this out. Have after ramping a bunch, you play this, you play a big thing, you play Tamatoa or something like that. You have a bunch of high loyal or high lore count characters. You start using this. You could use that with the Aubrey card, right? We talked about Aubrey untapping this, but so just think about all this. And you might say, okay, so you're going to say this card is an A, right? I think this is a C. Oh, people are going to come at me in the comments for this. I think this card is way overrated. I think you're not going to want to play more than like 1 or 2 copies of this. You play 3 copies of this, and it's going to be super awkward. Obviously, again, you have Scrooge McDuck who can maybe turbo it out. But again, so much has to go right for this. Again, I just don't see a lot of the scenarios where this card comes out and you are already winning the game, right? Again, I just don't see this card being as effective as people think it's going to be. Again, I think it's cool. I think it's flashy. I think it makes sense as to why this is a legendary. I just don't think it's going to be this powerhouse that people think it is. Yet, again, it could be. Again, I could be completely wrong. There could be a deck that can turbo it out. Could turn out that Scrooge McDuck. I'm also kind of basing this again off of my assessment of Scrooge, where sorry, I realize I have still open. Where again, I think the purpose of Scrooge existing is to get this card out, and I think again, unless Scrooge is doing that, this card is not that good. Just playing this on 7 or even playing this on 9, like it just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on this card. Again, I'm ready to be proven wrong. I'm ready. I will be the first one. If this card is like top in tournaments, I will be the first one to make a video titled "I was wrong," and you will see me. I'll link back to this. I'm ready. You can come at me. That's fine. And that's okay, right? I think that's the fun part of this game is we get to talk about it, we get to see who's right, see who's wrong. Again, hearing that wasn't even aware of it, but again, people were apparently trashing Mufasa Betrayed Leader, and that card is now insane. It's a lot of money, so yeah. Again, it's possible I could be wrong on this card as well. I don't think I am. So, okay, I think that was every single card. All right, and that was every single card in the Into the Inklands set. I'm not going to go over the enchantments; they're here, but they're the same cards that we went over. There's some nice art here. I like this art a lot. We've got some. I like that we have variety of different cards now. The last one was just characters, right? This one we've got the locations, which is cool. We've got some items. We've got some actions, as well as the classic Floodborn characters here, and some other cards like Chernobog. Super cool. Very excited to dig for some of these. I opened some enchantments actually recently, which was pretty cool. So yeah, they look very nice. They're very nice cards to collect. Yeah. Um, Again, as for the set overall and the locations, again, I'm not going to really discuss that in this video. We can kind of discuss that for another time. But I am really excited for the set to come out. We'll get a whole bunch more cards. There'll be a whole bunch more variety. I like that the cards in this set are kind of incentivizing different color combinations that we haven't seen before. I know Amethyst, Sapphire is not a pairing that I've seen, at least from my perspective, too much, and it looks like that's something that they're trying to push. You know, some other pairings that maybe we'll see a little bit of a different builds. I think it's really cool when we can have the same color pairings, but maybe they're built differently, right? So instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm Ruby Amethyst," right? You tell somebody you play Ruby Amethyst, and they can tell what your deck is. It'll be cool if you tell somebody, "Hey, I'm playing Ruby Amethyst," and they ask you which one, what kind of Ruby Amethyst. So yeah, I think it'll be pretty cool, and yeah, just generally excited for new cards, and yeah, awesome. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. This took me so much to get going, so if you have made it here, thank you so much, and make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and be on the lookout for more lore content. More Lorcana content. Can't even speak at this point. More Lorcana content starting soon. All right, see you guys in the next video.